Welcome to Mic Drop, the podcast where relevancy is irrelevant and we don't give a shit about your feelings.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's an honor and a pleasure to have the guest sitting across from the desk from me this evening. What we have here is a former U.S. Navy SEAL assigned to SEAL Team 5 and SEAL Team 6 as an enlisted guy, and then spent some time at SEAL Team 3 as an officer. He was a SEAL instructor. He's got hundreds of combat operations and was medically retired in June of 2013 after 17 years of service and received 5 Bronze Stars, 4 of which were with Valor, a Purple Heart, a Joint Service Commendation Medal, Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal with Valor, 3 Navy Achievement Medals, 2 Combat Action Ribbons, and a Presidential Unit Citation. He holds 2 world records, one for a 36,500-foot jump and another for an 18-mile wingsuit jump. He's a licensed commercial pilot. God fucking help us. He's
so very true.
Starred in a hit TV show, The Hunted on CBS, History Channel series, Navy SEALs, America's Secret Warriors. He's got a dedicated segment on Red Bull TV, as well as the Ultimate Rush series called Human Dart. I can think of a few offshoots on that one. He's also been a part of a global commercial campaign for Tempur-Pedic, which he and I are going to break in later after the episode because that's what I sleep on. He currently provides consulting for a host of clientele and travels to provide content for his sponsors. He's got sparkly eyes and some of the gentlest hands of any warrior I've ever had the fucking pleasure of meeting. Please welcome the purveyor of lessons learned the hard way, Andy Stumpf.
Single best intro. Skipping the beginning part, that end was the single best intro I've ever had in my entire life.
Well, fucking A. I'll take it. We can just end it right now then and be all fucking good. I appreciate you coming down here. I know, for me doing them in person, as with the podcast that you have that's done so well, makes a huge fucking difference. And thus far, I've been fortunate enough to do that. So I appreciate the hell out of you coming down for it.
Yeah, we've been... I'm sorry it took so long for one, but yeah, it's hard as hell to do them remotely. If you don't know the person, there's so much lost, and you just end up with this, nothing.
Yeah, that's a great. Okay, so moving on. Yeah, I mean, I know you've been on a bunch. I've been on a bunch, and that I mean, to me, that's why I'm so adamant about it. There's been a number of guests that have rogered up to do it that I'm just like, I'm not gonna have somebody on if it's via Skype, which the internet connection here sucks so fucking bad that it's not worth doing. But yeah, just the quality of the content is so fucking terrible. It's hard to get past it. But so I appreciate you making time out of your busy schedule to come down here.
My pleasure, man.
Great.
Yeah, I'm glad we could finally put it together.
Yeah. So just a quick kind of lightning round to get the brain juices flowing. I know we've already shot the shit a little bit, but I always like to ask everybody, what their morning routine is on an average day.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of waking up early.
God bless you. That's fucking finally somebody that's as anti-Jocko in terms of scheduling as I am.
However, I wake up early because I have 3 kids. Yeah. And in my house, I on the days that I do sleep in, I hear my son's alarm going off. My oldest son is almost 15, and that's the beginning of the day. And if you have kids, nothing in your house is quiet.
Yeah.
Nothing or sacred or peaceful while they're there. So for me, my most productive time, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, is in the morning. So I actually am usually up at about 4 or 4:30.
Jesus.
For a week, I actually, speaking of Jocko, I woke up and I would take a picture of my watch and I would post it on Twitter, like #UpBeforeJocko.
Yeah.
And his fans or followers lost their shit.
No shit.
I don't know if they realized that we knew each other because it was before I'd actually done his podcast.
They're taking it all fucking personal.
They did. He, of course, I could text him and be like, hey, man, this is what I'm going to do. It was not that big of a deal. But I get up early because I can be productive. So I get up. I mean, it's probably not healthy, but the first thing I do is I brew an awesome cup of coffee or a pot of coffee.
After you piss excellence. Of
course. Yep. Generally at my old age, the prostate's getting after you. Yeah. So it's coffee. And then, most of what I do, a lot of it is tied to the digital world. So I can fire up my computer and I'll sit there and have a cup of coffee. And I try to get through as much of my work as humanly possible because when I hear the alarm go off upstairs for my sons, I just want to be able to, I do the best I can. I fail often at shutting it completely off, but I just try to be there for them and get them ready for school, get them off to school, and then I can dive back into that. But that's my normal morning.
So what I'm curious of, because I've recently, or in the last year or so, kind of stopped eating breakfast. Is that something that you don't do really either? Or?
I just eat when I'm hungry. So I worked for CrossFit for almost 10 years, and I was around so much high quality information from people who, they break your food up into protein, carbohydrate, and fat, the macronutrient, the zone type stuff. And then I was around guys like Rob Wolf, who are more paleo-centric, meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, and the intermittent fasting guys and all of that stuff. And to be honest with you, probably my weakest point is adherence to any structured diet. So I try to eat clean, and I just kind of eat when I'm hungry. And I also keep in mind also my activity level.
Yeah.
I do try to eat less when I'm not active. But if I'm hungry for breakfast, I'll eat breakfast. Yeah. If I'm not hungry, I skip it.
So in terms of adhering to a specific meal set, is it, how would you classify that in terms of is it a hybrid of paleo, keto, or is it just like you just try to eat clean, sourced, whatever the fuck you're hungry for, and that's it?
I try to eat clean.
Yeah.
Sometimes I tell myself Doritos are clean.
Sometimes I wash them off.
I'm telling you, I'm not the best example. I can force myself to go get into the gym every day and sweat. Like, that's one thing I try to do every day is sweat for my mental sanity, because I'll lose my shit if I don't. But my weak time of the day is like 7 to 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that's when the ice cream creeps in.
Yeah, it's like, well, it's dairy, right? It's mostly milk.
There's protein. How about a bowl of cereal?
Yeah, and it was tough was working for CrossFit is always being around really high caliber athletes, and their discipline rivals Jocko and the way that he talks about discipline. Yeah. And it was tough because I'd constantly be like, I want that ice cream, but if I have it, I'm a bitch.
Yeah.
So it was actually nice to kind of let the reins off of myself a little bit. So I eat as clean as possible. I eat, one of the reasons I got into bow hunting is I didn't want to buy meat anymore. Mm-hmm. And I have not bought meat at a store since August when I started last year. So I have a ton of the wild game is insane, really high protein content. So pretty much
clean as fuck.
Yeah. In the morning, I'll go to the freezer and kind of look at it, and I'll pull that out, and then I let that defrost all day long, and I pair it with the side. So it's mostly meats and vegetables. And again, like I said, Fritos were made from potatoes, which is a vegetable sometimes.
Fucking, Ruffles are potatoes, Fritos are corn, so fuck it.
Occasionally.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. That's good shit. It sounds like it's relatively in line with kind of how I've come full circle, because I've tried just about fucking everything, keto, paleo, fucking zone. It's tough over the long term. Yeah, to me, like that's what breaks people is the attention to detail.
Yeah.
Day in, day out. It's like it gets to the point where it's a fucking part-time job to eat, and it's like, Jesus Christ, I got better shit to do. So I agree. I think that's a good way to handle fucking business. But favorite place on earth?
Man, that's a good question. I think you and I we've probably been to more places on Earth than most. Mm-hmm. My absolute place on Earth is probably anywhere that I call home. Yeah. It used to be San Diego for a long time, but we just moved up into northwestern Montana. And I think probably my favorite flights home are the ones that are, my favorite flights are the ones that bring me home. The Flathead Valley that we live in is just beautiful, both in the wintertime and the summer. So that's definitely my favorite spot. But if I'm going to go somewhere that would be my favorite, it would probably be the Lauterbrunnen Valley in Switzerland.
No shit. I've always wanted to go. I've spent actually very little time in Europe outside of Holland and Germany, just because that's where all the dogs are at that I go test and select. But yeah, I've always wanted to go to fucking Switzerland. I know there's a shit ton of places. What is it about that place that is magic?
For what I like to do, for a lot of people see mountains and they appreciate them for the landscape. Yeah. I see mountains and I appreciate them for the distance that I can travel from them in my fabric wingsuit. Yeah. In the Lauterbrunnen Valley, the geography, it looks like somebody drug an axe, just the pointy end of an axe through this valley, and there's sheer cliffs on each side. If you were a diabetic, it'd be like standing at the candy aisle at the grocery store, and both sides are delicious, consumable things that you want to just stuff your face into. Yeah.
Well, there's a number of references that you could go dirtier than a kid in a candy store. I'm teeing
it up for you. I'm going to see how far you're going to go.
Well, I'll take it the whole fucking way on mic drop. But I can. It's going to be a long episode. But The thing that I find fascinating about that is, I was never free fall qualified, right?
What?
And it's funny when I read the biggest reason why you got into parachuting was out of jealousy.
100%.
Because I was the same way. Like I was in that same. Just it was a shitty deal of being at Team 3, being where I was at. My lot in the platoon lottery was you're still a fucking new guy because I did an ARG Alpha platoon, so it was a 2-year workup basically, and so even after that, I was still competing with guys that had 2-3 platoons to go to free fall sniper comms. I got hazmat and load planner, which was in
your first platoon.
Yeah, well, in between my first and second.
You're lucky.
Yeah, so
I think I got. Nothing in my first platoon.
Yeah, to go sweep the beach, paint lines in the fucking sidewalk. But yeah, I mean, so because of that, I was always at a place wherever I was at to where I was either junior man or junior enough to where I never ended up getting free fall. But my point is that seeing some of the fucking wingsuit stuff that you've done and some other guys have done, like even me with as many as the dumb harebrained shit things that I've done, like I still find my palms fucking sweating watching it. I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, it's fascinating shit. I mean, it looks like it's got to be a huge rush and it's gnarly as fuck, and we'll get into it. But that sounds like a fucking cool place, worth going to. But
it's beautiful,
yeah,
for sure.
All right, any animal, any cut, favorite piece of meat, and before you answer it, it can't be my mom. You got to leave Sandy out of this.
All right,
she's
fair
a nice
enough.
lady.
I would go with, and this is a recent one. I actually hunted for this animal for the first time a few months ago, but I think my favorite piece of game is axis deer.
Axis deer.
If I prepared it for you properly, which anything beyond medium rare is improper.
Yeah.
But if I prepared it for you properly and kind of cut it in a way where you wouldn't be able to tell what type of meat that it was, just from taste alone, I don't think most people could identify it. It is so... I'll send you some. I'll overnight you some. It's so delicious. It's so flavorful. And as far as the cut goes, there was a butcher. We were hunting it in Lanai. It was imported from, I think, India, and there's like 30,000 of these things on the island of Lanai with like 2,000 people. They're everywhere.
Oh, shit. Is that the only place they're at?
No, there actually is a ton here in Texas as well. It looks like a nice brown body of a deer, but they have these really nice white spots. It's a beautiful animal. Yeah. The female ones should be shot on sight because their entire job in life is to look at you and then blow your stalk that you're on. And the male ones are just majestic. They've got these great racks. They look awesome in velvet. But honestly, I'll take any cut of axis deer. It is unbelievable. Is
there a meat that most people are familiar with that you could even remotely compare it to, like that people would mistake it for, or might mistake it for?
I don't know if I have enough experience in my palate for that, but I would say probably a very, very expensive fillet.
Okay, so it's super lean and like almost buttery that way.
Yeah.
Well, that's good shit. I'm looking forward to fucking getting some.
I'll send you some
shit.
for sure.
Sweet, I appreciate it. What is the political issue you find most fucking irritating?
How to keep kids safe in school.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's on the list. We're goddamn sure going to get into that.
So you guys have had a bad week.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, we'll dive into that head first here in just a little bit. Favorite band?
Does Britney Spears count as a band?
I was going to go with Meghan Trainor. She's a little more recent, a little more relevant.
I'm a fan of Metallica.
Yeah.
I like some Five Finger Death Punch when I'm really just trying to relax, and calm
trying to
down.
Go to sleep.
Yeah, both of those are pretty solid.
Yeah, amen. Most embarrassing moment ever?
Ever? Oh boy,
I know. There's a lot of competition for that, but most
embarrassing moment ever. I would say at work it would be going to the helicopter and really realizing shortly before takeoff I didn't have my gun. That one kind of sucked.
When was that?
How many times has that happened?
Which time?
Yeah, that was in Afghanistan. It's pretty awesome. That goes down in as a bookmark in the old career of things that didn't go the way that I wanted it to. Personally, most embarrassing thing? God, I don't even know. I mean, I'm generally, I think I walk around as kind of a buffoon and an idiot, so it's hard to really nail one down.
All right. I mean, to me, the showing up without a gun to a gunfight's,
we weren't in the gunfight yet. I caught it before then.
Going to one, I guess. Yeah. But
you know how hard it is to hide that you don't have your gun in front of a bunch of guys who have their guns?
I do, actually. Strangely enough.
Hey, guys, I got to go. The keys in that truck, I'll be right back.
That's fucking great. What's your favorite drink?
Alcoholic or non?
Preferably alcoholic, but if there's something that...
I would say alcoholic-wise, beer-wise would be Guinness. Mm-hmm. It's just a strong American brand. It's founded in Kentucky, I believe. And on the harder side of the house, even though they are one of my sponsors...
You know there's going to be people that didn't realize you're fucking with them.
I can't help them. Sarcasm is my favorite weapon system. Yeah. So,
fuck.
Harder side of the house, even though they're one of my sponsors, Killcliff, it was a recovery drink founded by Todd Elric, a team guy. Killcliff in vodka is lights out good. Yeah. And I feel that you can talk yourself into believing that you're recovering while you're drinking. So it's basically a vitamin and mineral.
So it pretty much balances or they neutralize.
And I will say to people who have never had Killcliff in vodka, I would start with the Blood Orange. It's it's the Killer Texan is what we called it. Oh, it's Tito's vodka and Blood Orange Killcliff. And just be careful because it will sneak up on you. Yeah. Because it tastes, I wouldn't say it tastes like Gatorade because it actually tastes nothing like Gatorade. But it's delicious, and it goes down really, really smooth on the first one. And by the time you get to the fourth one, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's my kind of fucking drink. That's fucking good shit. I'm more of a bourbon guy, but I damn sure. I mean, I love Killcliff. They've we did a couple of high school football, like little mini 2-hour Buds Hell Week, leadership things, and Killcliff sent out a shit ton of product. It was fucking awesome.
It's a good brand for sure.
Yeah, they're solid as fuck. All right, so last but not least, is it something that you've not mentioned publicly yet that would surprise most people, or is there fucking anything?
Something that I haven't mentioned.
Let's get Andy on a fucking exclusive.
One thing that I haven't talked about, and probably because it's recent, would be I personally am struggling with where I consider the SEAL teams to be going and how a lot of guys are representing themselves in the public perception of the community that both you and I come from.
I have a theory about that. We might as well get right into it.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, it started recently. Like I said, I've had, and maybe it stems from me putting my own expectations on individuals. The problem certainly could be from me having or expecting too much from people. But I expect a lot from the people who come from our community. Yeah. But what I will say is that I expect more from myself. I don't hold anybody to a standard that I wouldn't hold myself to. And as of recently, I've had some what I would consider to be poor experiences with people from our shared background, and it's put a bad taste in my mouth. And I've actually found myself really wanting to distance myself from the SEAL community as of late.
So what I'm curious, to further into that, what I'm curious of is do you find or have you found a specificity towards a certain generation of guys that you're referring to? Because to me, and I hate to sound like the bitter old guy. It's like back in my day. But to me, like the community seems different nowadays. The guys that I've run into that are more recent, I would say, over the last couple of years that are either active or recently active, and I would consider kind of the generation after ours seem different to me. Now maybe it's just because I'm old now and I've been out for a fucking decade. And that's not to relinquish any fucking shitbaggery or a shitbird affiliation with guys from our generation or even older, because there's certainly plenty of them. But to me, there seems to be a shift. Do you find that, or is it more all-encompassing?
Well, the experiences that I was referencing were actually from people more of our generation, but I think the teams are different. I don't see how they couldn't be, because the world is different. And when I was a BUDS instructor, I remember having conversations with other BUDS instructors because we were putting through the younger generations coming through. And there certainly was what I perceived at least to be a difference in mentality and attitude from when I went through training.
Yeah.
But the question that I had for the other instructors was, I wonder if the instructors who put us through had these same conversations about it.
I'm sure they did.
And so I think it's natural. Yeah. I think as the world shifts and advances in technology and society, I don't think there's any way that the teams can stay what they were in the past. And I think that's actually good. I don't necessarily think that the routes that the evolution or the expression of that they're taking are good, but I don't think there's any way that we can, you can't put the genie in the bottle and hold it in there forever. I am not as connected to the teams as I once was. As as time goes by, you kind of just lose touch a little bit, and kind of like what I said when I started. I mean, about the issue that most people wouldn't know about or haven't talked about is I'm kind of slowly just pulling the tentacles back. I'm trying to be less attached to the community, and I'm less interested in trying to stay in touch. But from what I've seen from the younger generation, I saw a lot of the same stuff that I think defined the community when you and I were in, and that when we came in, there was no SEAL ethos.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure we still live by one.
Yeah.
The fact that they put it on paper and they make the guys memorize and recite it, which I cannot. I know that it exists. But the SEAL teams existed before that ethos. I think that's a good step, as long as they actually live it, because repeating bullshit that you don't actually aspire to be means nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a pedophiliac priest that fucking can memorize the fucking Bible like I don't give a fuck, But
are there those?
There's got to be.
Okay. Again, people, I am slightly sarcastic, so I'm aware of.
I heard there was,
but it's so from what I have heard about what is going on in the teams, I don't know if I would describe it as a crisis. I don't know what level you would put it as, but there are issues. I think recently it started coming out that there are some issues with drugs in the teams, and I have no idea what that level actually sits at now. Mm-hmm. I know that there were issues when I was in. I'm trying to think if I ever saw anybody personally using. I don't think that I did. But I have been at commands where people pissed hot and they were removed. So I know that that's not new. Maybe the level that it's at is new. The desire or the drive for people to seek the public notoriety and the spotlight, I don't think that was happening as much in the beginning of our careers.
Yeah.
But was there much for them to seek the notoriety for? Yeah. When we started our career, I don't think there was. So again, it's part of the evolution. I don't necessarily agree with the expression of it, but you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah. I mean, I think that just like with most things, there's examples set and exceptions made at certain levels in terms of chain of command that set the precedence. And if guys, whether it's back in 04, 05, when after when Lone Survivor kind of kicked it all off, really. In terms of that public, new generation. Because, I mean, we all grew up reading the Dick Marcinko Rogue Warrior fucking Vietnam era books, and that's why a lot of us join. I know
Men with Green Faces, which I try to explain to my kids. There's this brick and mortar building that I actually had to go find the book at. It was known as a library.
Yeah.
Amazon Prime didn't exist, and they couldn't just double tap, and there Kindles. It was. But Men with Green Faces, and then there was, the Rogue Warrior series, which I'm not going to lie, I thought that was a nonfiction at the time that I read it when I was young. Wildly let down when I got into the actual SEAL teams.
Yeah. Point Man with James Patches Watson was another good one.
I don't know if I read that one.
I read that one as well. But I guess my point is that there was a huge fucking gap between sustained combat operations that had enough content for things of that nature to be written about.
About 30 years, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Panama, Grenada, Mogadishu, a handful of guys.
Yeah.
I mean, and by that I mean literally a handful. Like Mogadishu, there was 4 team guys there.
Yeah. And so you got this huge disparity between major, conflict or combat operations. And so, like you said, I think, a lot of it is what was there to fucking write and talk about. Obviously writing books and being kind of in that spotlight is nothing new, because there are guys, from the 80s and 90s, i.e. Dick Marcinko and company that did. So, but yeah, I mean, to me, just like with most things, I mean, I don't care if you're talking about slaughtering animals, raising your fucking kids, training a dog, whatever, like there's a right way and a wrong way to do every fucking thing. And I think that's where there's been some issues, is that there's good ways that reflect positively on the community, don't compromise capabilities, and and overall gleam a positive spotlight on the brotherhood. And to me, that's a good fucking start.
Well, I think the intent matters.
Yeah.
Well, what's your intent behind publishing something, anything, a podcast, a blog, a book? I don't think I'll ever go down the road of writing a book. I think mostly because I think my capabilities would end at a coloring book, which I have considered, by the way. An adult coloring book, the history of the Navy SEALs, lots of red. Yeah. It's going to be amazing. But what I always try to say is that I do believe that the individual experiences that you get throughout a career, they're yours. And you can do with them what you want to do with them. Some people choose to publish them. And I think the intent behind that matters. I think if your intent is to seek fame and notoriety and money for yourself, I'll put a moral judgment on that in a minute, because I certainly inherently have a moral judgment of that. And then there's the example I'm going to use is Jocko. Jocko's books on leadership. There's now, I know one of them is out, Extreme Ownership, and I don't know if his second book, The Dichotomy of Leadership, is out, but he and Leif Babin wrote those books. And when I read that book, I don't hear somebody beating their chest. I don't hear somebody who is telling war stories about themselves. What I see is an intent to pass on lessons learned. What I see is an intent to educate. Is there money that can be gained from the publishing of those books? Absolutely. Yeah. And his experiences are his to do what he wants. His and Leif's. The book is both of theirs, not just Jocko's. But I see just a chasm of difference between an intent to educate and pass on the legacy, because really, what is passing on the lessons learned? That's passing on the legacy. That's passing on the things that the guys who served in that 30-year gap of sustained combat. I mean, if you think about who put us through BUD/S, they didn't see any combat. Why do we have the same moral compass inside of the community and the drive and the desire to uphold what a lot of people call the brotherhood? I would say not as many people live that brotherhood as like to call it a brotherhood, but we got that compass orientation from people who never saw combat. Yeah. And they passed on the legacy. Yeah. I have no problem with people who have the intent of honoring and educating. That doesn't bother me. I am bothered by people who are pursuing purely monetary gain for themselves, purely notoriety and fame, especially when they start deviating from the truth. If their intent is to raise their own star, I start having an issue, because the reality is their fucking career and that trident, it's not theirs. Yeah. The experiences from their career, I take that back. Their career is theirs, but the community is not. Yeah. We rent our time in the SEAL teams. And in my opinion, your goal should be to make it a percentage point better than the day that you got in, but you don't own it. Yeah. And they are taking ownership over something that I don't believe that they own.
I mean, to me, I guess where I think some people, especially outside of the community, and for that matter, fuck, even inside of it, is to me like who dictates that? Where do you draw the line from using your experiences and training to make a living? Which ultimately, to me, it's there's an element of scalability that exists with that. Is that on the one extreme end of the spectrum, you could say, hey, you're not even allowed to put it on a fucking resume, because if you get hired, well, then to me, granted, it's scaled way the fuck down, but there's an element of you're still making a living off of the fact that you were a SEAL. Now,
well, it's a title that you're never going to get rid of,
right? So to me, I think that the tough part to figure out is, and again, I think it boils down to there's a right and a wrong way to do everything. Is that at some point you're crossing over into where if you're willing to lie about your experiences, misrepresent fucking truths or half truths or things about the community that don't exist, or
appropriate other people's experiences as your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100%, and there's a number of examples of that. Yep. And to me, that, from my perspective, as somebody who's written 2 books, 3 if you count, the second one being a young adult adaptation of the first. And I'm happy to get into my reasons as to why. But, to me, that's where, at least from my perspective, that's where like I would draw the line in the sand is that, we all come from a background of those experiences help a lot of guys get hired or open a lot of doors that wouldn't normally exist had you not been a SEAL. But taking advantage of them to the point where now you're misrepresenting things and lying about things or representing stories that aren't yours as your own, then yeah, for 100% sure. And I mean, I know we could spend fucking 3 hours talking about just that alone, but
I would say that's I don't know where, I guess right and wrong would be subjective. For me personally, and I guess for anybody who is listening to this, anything that I say is my opinion alone, right? I speak for Andy, you speak for Mike. We do not speak for the SEAL teams, but I'll certainly give you my opinion on them.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I would say the right and wrong is it starts and stops with the truth. When you start deviating from the truth, in my opinion, if you can, I'm sure when you wrote your books, you probably felt the burden of integrity and honesty.
Oh, absolutely. And having multiple people, read them to make sure like, hey, because some of the things that I talk about are, some of them are my childhood. Some's going through buds. It's been a long time. Yeah. Like, the last fucking thing I would want to do is misrepresent something or write something that was wrong. And so, I had a fuck ton of people read it to make sure that didn't happen. Whereas I know for a fact there are people that didn't have anybody read their shit, and there's a lot of misrepresentations. But
if they had them read their stuff, there might have been an issue.
Yeah.
I think we're beholden to the community that we come from. And you and I count, I don't really consider myself to be a public figure at all. But people know me as a SEAL.
Yeah.
And I feel responsible to the community. And if people say negative things about me, or am I representing myself or misrepresenting myself, I'll adjust my behavior. I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah.
I try to be honest and open, and probably the first things I'll ever tell you about are the things that I fucked up, because I did more of those than things that are correct.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be that way.
Yeah.
And you have to, if a massive portion of the community is pointing at somebody and saying, that's not right, that's not true.
Yeah. No,
it has meaning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To me, like the classic 80-20 rule is that, there's going to be 10% of guys that don't give a fuck what you do. There's going to be 10% of guys that if your name is attached to the word SEAL on the internet ever, they're going to motherfuck you for it. It's that 80% middle of the road community, the meat and potatoes of the community is that if the overwhelming majority of those guys are like, yeah, you know what, this fucking guy's doing it right, then chances are you're fucking doing it right, and unfortunately I agree. There's some that don't fall into that fucking category, but like I said, we could go on and on about it, but
what I will say is I think one of the things the SEAL teams is the least, I wouldn't say, it's not that they're the least capable of doing, it's one of the things that they're the worst at is policing their own. Mm-hmm. It's, as well as I do, you could easily associate the terms catty and bitchy to the SEAL teams. Yeah. We are God help you if there's blood in the water, because your peers and your friends and your loved ones will consume you alive.
Yeah, no shit.
Because they love you.
Yeah.
And we're really good at talking shit behind closed doors, and I think we do a poor job as a community. Yeah. Let's be honest. SOCOM, and even JSOC to a degree, could go hold a press conference. They could go get a national stage and microphone, and they could clear the air.
Yeah.
But they don't.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they feel, my suspicion is that they feel that it would negatively represent the SEAL teams.
Yeah.
Whereas in my current opinion, I think it would be the beginning of the rebuilding of the integrity on the public face.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fantastic point, and one that I certainly didn't think of. But on that, to your point of doing a poor job, I would take it a step further and say, I think we do as a community a piss poor job of being consistent in how we police our own, because there are times where guys are made a fucking vigorous goddamn example of, and then there's other times where it's, he's a fucking good, like it just gets brushed under the fucking rug, and to me that's bullshit. Like, if there's one thing I can tell you that I've gleaned from training dogs is that consistency is fucking everything.
Well, a standard that is blurry is very hard. It's not a standard.
Yeah.
Especially when the metrodome swings back and forth, and it's the same thing as discipline with kids.
Yeah. It's either right or it's wrong.
Correct.
There's no fucking gray
It can't be
area.
right on Monday and wrong on Wednesday because you're just going to sit there with a dude looking at you with Apple scroll wheels in his eyes.
It can't be okay when I don't feel like getting in your ass about it, And so I mean that's part of it. But no, it's good shit. So. And we'll come back to some team community stuff here.
I know you got a lot of stuff written down.
I got multiple pages. So
I have no notes.
We'll get you a notebook here and a fucking crayon and a napkin.
I told you, coloring book. All you're going to get stick figures doing inappropriate things.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, so going just kind of want to chronologically go through you growing up just a little bit.
Sure.
In terms of growing up in Northern California, like first of all, what the fuck, right? NorCal.
You can't pick where you're born.
I mean, but like, how do you come from Northern California? Is I guess what my question is what was that like in terms of family dynamic, politics, growing up, siblings, influences from your parents? What kind of shake us through that?
Well, so I was born and raised in Santa Cruz for all but 4 years of the 18 I lived before actually leaving for boot camp. Santa Cruz is an interesting ecosystem.
Yeah.
I mean, there are left-leaning towns, and I don't give a shit about people who are on the left or the right. I really don't care. Live your life, enjoy your life, just appreciate what it takes to be able to do that. So Santa Cruz, I don't think it's any stretch to say that it's left. It's very liberal. It's so far left, in my opinion, that somehow it ends up on the right. It's not conservative by any stretch, but they're just full tilt to the left, which it makes it pretty interesting to grow up in. I mean, it was hard to get in trouble in that town, and my family was pretty well established. I mean, my grandfather built 2 of the high schools in the town as one of the first masonry companies in Santa Cruz, which he then passed that skill on to my father. My grandfather was in the Navy. My father was in the Navy. My mother's side of the house she was a military brat as well from the Army. Her mother enlisted in the Navy in the nurse corps and got such bad post-traumatic stress from treating these soldiers that were coming back from World War II that she actually got discharged from the Navy.
Oh, shit.
Took some time off and went back in and lied about her previous service and joined the Army nursing corps and went back and did the exact same job.
God damn.
Her husband was somewhere in the logistical supply chain. He was an officer. So, I mean, I have military on both sides. Yeah. Having said that, I truly think that my parents' absolute last desire for me would be to have continued down that path. I mean, public school system, except for 2 years of private school. When I was in middle school, a kid at my middle school hung himself in his closet, and it freaked my parents out. And so they put me into a private school for, I think it was 7th and 8th grade, maybe half of a year in 6th grade as well. But it was a short period of time, a couple of years, and then right back into the public school system. Totally average athlete, baseball and water polo. Did junior lifeguards. It was a beach town. I did junior lifeguards and did that. And I worked for my father in the summer times. I started working for him when I was either 10 or 11. He paid me about $1.50 an hour, which I still give him shit about. Yeah, I mean, he's probably more of a smart ass than I am because I'll be like, dude, how did you possibly pay me $1.50? He's like, you were only worth $1. So he throws it right back in my face. I wonder where I get it from. But I think that job site. So from a political perspective, there were no topics that were off limits. We could, I have a sister. We really didn't get along well growing up, and I would say only recently, in probably the last 5 or 6 years, we really connected more and become more of a family. Probably started when she started having kids as well. It just, life's If you have a brother or a sister, you know the deal. Sometimes you don't get along that well. Yeah. I see it in my own kids, my middle son and my youngest daughter, and I think where I learned a lot of the lessons and got a lot of my drive was working on construction sites at a young age. I mean, at 12 years old, I was working a quickie saw, cutting bricks and blocks and moving and making concrete. And I remember when I turned 13, my dad was like, all right, this summer you're learning how to use a jackhammer. It's 2 rules. 1, don't drop it off the roof. And 2, don't tell your mother. And I would just stand on top of chimneys because the earthquake hit in '89, just destroyed Santa Cruz from a masonry perspective. Yeah. So we were still back when I left for the Navy in '96, we were still fixing damage from the earthquake. So I would go to school, and every summer I was working. I've had a job since I was 11 years old. And I remember coming back from a particular job I don't remember the job, but I remember the drive. We were driving on my dad's work truck from Aptos, California, which is south of Santa Cruz by 20 miles. Driving into Santa Cruz, and my dad made a comment about SEALs. It was the first time I'd ever heard of it. And he wasn't a SEAL himself, but he worked with SEALs in Vietnam. He was on, the Mark Vs, right? Yeah, he was on the Mark 1s.
No shit.
Yeah, he had two
Brownwater Navy, huh?
Yeah, totally. He had 250 cals, some foot pedals, and just 2 triggers of fun.
Yeah, fucking.
I don't know if he was having fun because he had some issues. We actually, the 4 years that we moved away from Santa Cruz, my mom gave him an ultimatum and said, "You need to fix your fucking head, or I'm going to leave you." So we went to Missoula, Montana, of all places, and now we moved back to Montana. Those two are not connected, but it's interesting how the world
brought you back.
Comes back, and he went through some very intensive counseling, and I was too young to really remember it, but I'm old enough to remember holes in the doors, and I'm old enough to remember my dad in his underwear in the backyard just screaming at nothing.
No shit.
And I didn't put those two together until a long time after, and it doesn't scarred me in any way, but I remember it.
Was there, not to interrupt, but was there an element of that being brought out on you guys, or was it all in?
Not at all.
Objects?
It was. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't realize it. I think until I saw some of it in myself.
Yeah.
Never an issue. I mean, my parents were incredibly loving, and they tried to enable us to pursue our passions, whatever it may be, for both my sister and I, and that is something that I've passed on to my kids as well. So he brought up SEALs, and I mean, you and I know this narrative so well. It becomes this magnetizing pull.
Like, consumes you.
It consumes you. Yeah. And people hear it and they go, what do you mean you wanted to be a SEAL since you were 11? And I still to this day, I definitely then didn't have the vocabulary. Yeah. Could be argued I don't have a better vocabulary now. I definitely don't have a more enhanced mental state. Yeah. But it just hooked me. Yeah. As I'm sure people who go into the Army SF world, it hooks them. Yeah. And whatever it hooks you at that age, it hooks you. And that's what it was for me. And that's all I could think about. That's all I thought of. That's all I wanted to do. I never took my SATs. I never studied for college. I never applied for college, which in hindsight was a terrible plan. Yeah. And brought home a permission slip, essentially, when I was 17 from the Navy recruiter. And sat it down with my parents. I was like, this is what I want to do. Wasn't a shock to them. Yeah. I mean, I had a freaking SEAL flag on my wall since I was like 12. Yeah. And they signed it.
No shit.
They didn't try to talk me out of it. Yeah. The Navy recruiter sat with them. They signed it, and they didn't stand in my way, even though I know for a fact that it's the last thing on earth that they wanted me to do. And in that moment, I didn't realize I was just satisfying a recruiter billet because you still have to be 18 to go to boot camp. But the recruiter had a good month that month. Yeah. So I signed in the delayed entry program. And while everybody else was getting ready to celebrate their summer from graduating high school, I left for boot camp, and the journey begins. So how I came out of that environment in Santa Cruz, I mean, I don't know. I think the people that you surround yourself with, or the people that raise you, are much more important than the environment that they raise you in, outside of that ecosystem that they can control.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's 100% is that one of the things that I ask a lot of similar questions for that same reason is that all the guests that come on here. Regardless of where they grew up, the common thread and recurring theme that I find with every single one of them is that exact thing. And I had the exact same experience with my parents, is that extremely loving, supportive of whatever, like, I don't care, you want to be a fucking male stripper? Fine, be the best fucking male stripper out there. Like,
I don't know if they would have gotten on board that far, but I like where your parents' heads are at.
George and Sandy, shout out to you guys. That phase I went through of talking about being a Chippendales dancer, no. But that's it. I mean, like everybody's parents were kind of cut from that same cloth of being, that involved in their kids' lives and fostering a mentality in them, not just here's what you need, here's your fucking iPad, which, didn't exist back then, but the same, parallel in terms of just, redirecting them to something else, like they gave a fuck. And agreed, like, whether it's, I've had guests from all over the fucking place at this point, and that seems to be a recurring theme with all of them, which I don't find interesting, frankly.
It's because you were surrounded by it for so long.
Well, that and the parallels that I draw from dogs, and or the parallels that exist between training dogs, raising dogs, breeding dogs, the genetic theory behind how to replicate certain genetic predispositions that we're looking for in specific working traits. it's all the exact same shit. Is that, you know, you're when you're raising puppies and when you're breeding them and things of that nature, the same things that you do to not inhibit certain things and to channel and magnify and encourage other working traits by specifically setting them up for certain things exist in the exact same parameters. It's obviously different because what you're going for in a dog is very specific to what it's going to be doing in a working capacity. Mm-hmm. But how you get that, you know, 8-week-old puppy to a 2-year-old motherfucker in a good way is done very, very similarly to raising children properly. You know, it's consistency. It's black and white in terms of what your expectations are. Baby stepping your criteria up. It's all the exact same stuff. It's just, you know, the medium is a little different. But so again, like I don't find it even really interesting or fascinating that that there's those parallels and similarities between the guests that I have that are all worth having on here. What I do think is important is for everybody listening is to fucking understand that and stop raising a bunch of little fucking dipshits. But we're gonna rest assured we're gonna get into child rearing here in a little bit. But that's neat to hear. One other question I did have is in terms of politics. I know for me, like, I didn't give a fuck about politics growing up. I do now. Did that play any role in your childhood? Did you even pay attention to it?
I honestly can't think of a single time where I gave it a second thought. Yeah. I really can't.
Yeah, I mean, I was the same way. I think a lot of kids are. But when I see, like, these 10-year-olds on TV, like, spouting off fucking political shit, I'm just like, I don't know if that, like, to me, that seems like a recipe for fucking disaster. But
it concerns me in two ways. It concerns me for the kid because they don't realize they're being manipulated by somebody who understands more. Yeah. And then it concerns me for the people who are doing the manipulation because I want to run into them in a very, very dark alley.
Yeah, with a fucking vehicle.
Or a bat. I was thinking more of a bat, but I like where your head's at.
Go full school. Go old school. And maybe fucking shank them. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, to me, what I worry about is the after effect. Like, I mean, because to me, that's conditioning and brainwashing the same way, Muslim schools do, and even Christian academies here for that matter. But there's elements of that conditioning that's permanent. You know, I mean, when it's learned at that age, like that's pretty tough to get rid of. But
I'm sure the same parallels exist there with dogs as well too.
Yeah, and in a good way, in that, you know, you're essentially using that to your advantage. You know, if I want the dog to be basically neutral towards gunfire, I'm going to expose them to it at an early age. Whereas, you know, in that first 6 to 8 months, as an example, like that's kind of your really big window of opportunity from an exposure standpoint, both environmentally, sociability, temperament-wise, exposing them to all these different stimuli that, you know, later on when they're older and more mentally mature and can handle more stress and more chaotic environments, but they've been exposed to fractions of that prior to that. And again, it's all a scaling thing, is that you're baby stepping or scaling your way up from, very, very small and short bursts of exposure to those things, and then building on that, whether it's, you know, as bite work as an example, because that's one of the things that I think people find most interesting, is that, you know, you see a 3-year-old Finnish dog that's, you know, on a bicep, you know, molar deep in a bicep and getting picked up by his skin and stuffed in fucking trash cans and thrown against the wall, and, you know, the camel clutch over his fucking back and you know, sprayed water on him and all these crazy things that people are like, holy shit, like that's a bad motherfucker. Like, yes, it is, but he's been brought up.
Yeah, you don't do that on day one.
Yeah, just like an MMA fighter, but it starts out with, here's a fucking dish towel. The puppy grabs it and I just tap his head and tap his ribs and make some noise and lift him up, and it's all just a little fucking game where we're using his prey drive to carry him through and things of that nature. And then you're scaling it up. But yeah, I mean, so I guess the irony is that, you know, it just like with everything, it's a double-edged sword. Like, you know, with kids, because there's logic and reason behind it, is that, you know, a lot of times kids are manipulated in that way, and that's a fucking detriment. Whereas when it comes to working animals, whether you're talking fucking thoroughbreds or dairy cattle or working dogs or whatever, is that, you know, you use those certain conditioning techniques to your advantage, you know. But
yeah, I give the kids, a good example would be the leaders of the March for Our Lives movement, right? And in this moment, only person's name I can remember is David Hogg. And not that he's the leader, but he's the name that I can remember. Yeah. He says some dumb shit. Mm-hmm. And I give him some latitude because he's a kid. Yeah. You know, he doesn't have that many laps around the sun. He's not getting on that stage by himself. And the people who are enabling and pushing that, I don't give them any latitude because they know better.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a good point. And to me, the thing that I think, is the shittiest part of that is that he's just old, and people like him are just old enough to think that it's them.
Yeah.
Like that, like at least a 10-year-old like is just kind of being spoon fed and whatever. I mean, not that it makes it right, but like to me, the dangerous part about guys like Hogg is that, he's going to grow up to be, a prominent figure. I have no doubt politically, that's going to be a real fucking twisted mentality to deal with. But I think, from a kind of a theoretical standpoint, those elements exist in a lot of different areas of our society. That one of the things that I find irritating politically is, because I'm kind of in the same boat, like left, right, I don't give a fuck. I don't really consider myself a conservative necessarily. I probably align with right-wing conservatives on more issues than I do on left-wing, but there's enough that I don't to where I wouldn't consider myself one. But there's elements of that in, on the right and on the left and the LGBT communities. I mean, there's a lot of elements of that where kids are being conditioned, whether it's, you see it in with illegal immigration issues, same thing. And you see kids with signs with fucking swear words and shit on them, being conditioned for all that same kind of stuff. And, again, for parents out there, stop using your kid like a fucking puppet, right?
Concur.
Yeah. Amen. All right. So I think we're about the same age then, because you graduated in 96 and joined the Navy, right?
Yeah, I'm 40.
Yeah, I'll be 40 this summer, but you look way younger than I do. But
I was going to say the same thing, but I didn't want to upset you.
Here's the
Might
thing.
leash one of your dogs on me here.
Well, that's later. We'll get that on YouTube. But I don't know how you do it with 3 kids. I have 2 kids, and
I don't know how I do either.
And they make me look like I'm fucking 50. But anyway, so we both graduated in 96, joined the Navy. Did you go to A school?
I did.
Because
it was requirements. Because
at that time,
in the current, from my understanding, I kind of left when they were redoing this pipeline. But now Buds is an A school.
Yeah.
I watched the same shitty video on probably a VHS tape on the second week of boot camp. Yeah. It's like a grainy SDV coming through the water.
Yeah. And the Magnum PIs faster open in fucking flight suits.
Terrible. And they're like, raise your hand if you want to try out. Well, I was there waiting for them to play that video. I was totally let down by it. But I raised my hand, and I mean, you can attest to this. The physical test to get a slot at Buds during that time period
does not represent.
The only word that could be used to describe it is pathetic.
Yeah.
It's a run of a not far distance, a swim of an even shorter distance, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups.
Yeah.
And none of those physical activities, those last 3, we're not talking 50 pull-ups. I think it was 6.
6, yeah. I mean, it's not representative of what the training is going to be, not even fucking close.
Which I'm totally fine with. Yeah. Having gone through it and then having applied it to others, I'm completely fine with that. I like the look of surprise on day one. But, so then to get a billet because of the attrition rate, it's probably not a good idea to have hundreds of young men who had one particular dream not achieve it and not have a job to do.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they found that out by living that exact scenario and having hundreds of kids who were probably what I would call liberty risks.
Yeah.
So you have to pick a school, or you had to pick a school when you and I both joined. I literally looked at the piece of paper based on which one was the longest and picked OSA school, which is radar scope operator. I've never seen one, but I've graduated the school.
Yeah. Did you pick because it was the longest just to give you that?
This picture is the shortest.
Oh, the shortest. I got you. I thought like personnelman was like fucking 3 weeks or some stupid shit.
But it's all dependent on how manned up the school were. There were the choices. So I went to the Dam Neck Navy base.
Because I was an IS. I was there.
Yeah, you were same building.
Same fucking time.
I had no idea what that command was on the northern side of the beach. Yeah. No clue whatsoever. Just random gunfire occasionally. Yeah. And learned about a radar scope that I've never physically seen in my life.
I mean, it's fucking the similarities between our experiences joining the Navy are fucking uncanny. It's pretty priceless.
Well, anybody who joined in our era is going to have one that's very similar.
Yeah. Yep. No fucking 2 ways about it. All right. So you go through A school, you go to Buds, and you were in what, 212?
212.
Yeah. I started 214, so I'm a new guy.
Yep.
But
you graduated 215 though, right?
Yeah.
You are Huya class.
That's right,
bitch.
Well, but I wasn't your bitch then. We were 211s because I was 214, so nice. 215 was
for the people who are completely lost now.
Yeah.
So I was the Hoo-Yah class for class 209. And all that means is you go to their graduation and you basically yell at the very end of it.
Yeah, Hoo-Yah class, whatever the fuck, and then they tell you to get wet and it sucks.
And you go get your dick kicked in like you do every day in Buds.
Yeah, yep. All right, so you went to Team 5, spent a fair bit of time there. And then
two platoons there, yep.
2 platoons at Team 5. And then you screened to go to Dam Neck, which is SEAL Team 6 for those that don't know that. One of the things I'm curious of, because I never went there, is the experience of Dam Neck versus the regular teams. They're, from my perspective of seeing some guys that I was fairly tight with at Team 3 and then went on and kind of the difference in mentality and how they changed and their perception of the regular teams. What was that experience like for you, and did you notice that same kind of thing, or what's your take on that?
Whew. I mean, there's a lot of layers to that question. First, I can only speak about it in the time period that I went through. Again, detached from the SEAL teams and extremely detached from that command. I would wager that it is almost nothing like when I was there. I mean, they have a new compound, a new facility, all of that stuff. So I screened in I screened in October of 2001.
Okay.
There were some significant events in September of 2001.
I don't remember. I think I was high that month.
Yeah. I knew that I wanted to screen pre 9/11. It was my second deployment, and pre 9/11 deployments are vastly different than post 9/11 deployments. Both of them, you train for 18 months and you deploy for 6. My first deployment at SEAL Team 5 was the Kadena Air Force Base in Japan. Yeah. You basically train to become ready in case the nation needs you anywhere in the world if you happen to be geographically close.
And then they didn't.
And so I drank. Yeah. Even if they did need me, I might have drank anyway as soon as we were done. Because that is what I was raised on in the SEAL teams, was a combination of Jägermeister and probably vodka. Not the healthiest thing, probably tailors some of my drinking habits now, but that's a different story for a different day. So first one was at Kadena Air Force Base. Second one, we come back. The geopolitical world was largely the same. And I deployed to Guam, another hotspot of insurgent activity.
Yeah, got that right.
But on that deployment, I knew that I wanted to screen to go to development group. And one thing that is important, I think, to bring up is pre 9/11, maybe even pre 2005, 2006, even inside of the SEAL teams, I would say there wasn't that much known about development group. Yeah. Because it's in Virginia, and if you are a West Coast SEAL, like we were, to go to selection, you uproot your family. You do a PCS move, or what's known as a permanent change of duty station. And if you don't make it through selection, what I found, at least for the guys that I knew, they didn't come back. So there's not a lot of beta on A, what you're getting into, and B, what happens after selection if you make it through, because they're on a different coast. Yeah. And you know as well as I do, if you're a West Coast team guy, you don't see the East Coast team guys that often, because they're not as good as us. It's not like you're going to talk to them anyway. So I'm sure the East Coast guys say the same stuff. Yeah. Absent an enemy, the SEAL teams will fight each other. That's what we're the best at.
And even during sometimes.
Sometimes during. So I had an idea of what I thought it was going to be. And from what I had understood, when I joined the Navy, I didn't know it existed. Yeah. When I was at OSA school, I literally didn't know it was a mile down the road. I had no idea. And I think one of the reasons that I wanted to be a SEAL, and part of the reasons that it was a draw for me, was because of the fact people told me there's no way you can do this. Because of the fact that it was hard. And I wanted to test myself. When I first started hearing about development group, to me, it seemed like the next logical step. And that only applies to me. A lot of guys in the community have no desire to go. And guess what? They're as good, if not exponentially better SEALs than I am. I don't think that having gone through selection, whether you make it or not, or especially whether you do make it, I don't think it's not a metric certainly not a metric that you should use to gauge your career. It's different. But to me, it seemed like the natural next step and the natural next progression. The biggest difference that I noticed, and I noticed it immediately, was the access to budget and what the access to budget will bring to you. I got issued more gear on my first day there than I ever did in the history of my SEAL career before then and after combined. Yeah. And it wasn't used gear. everything was in the plastic wrapper. It was all of the stuff that we wish we would have had at the conventional teams that we didn't have because of the budget. Yeah. And with the budget comes better facilities, more access to weapons, to newer weapons, to technology. And part of the charter development group is to test, develop, and evaluate equipment. So you get a lot of new high-speed stuff. If I look at it objectively, it gives you the opportunity to thumb your nose at the white soft teams or the conventional SEAL teams. JSOC would be considered the black side of the house. White soft would be considered the SOCOM versus JCOM split. The opportunity exists. If you have that inside of you as a person and you want to thumb your nose at people, you're going to take that opportunity while you're there. If you don't, and it's a job and you try to stay grounded in who you are and not what you do, all it is an enhancement of what you were doing before. It is different than the conventional teams. You are, at a regular SEAL teams, I would definitely describe you as a jack of all trades, a master of none. And you know this as well as I do. I mean, we would go and we would do
every fucking thing.
Oh my God, OTB, right? Over the beach. OTH, over the horizon. We'd do it for weeks, driving Zodiacs with outboard motors over the horizon for no goddamn reason whatsoever, thrown up in the ocean, pissing in your dry suit because you forgot it was a dry suit instead of a wetsuit. All the fun things that happen when you spend an extended period of time in the water. Cold weather training in Alaska, land navigation, weapons skills, CQB, CQC, whatever the hell the acronym is these days.
Fucking diving,
jumping, and you would just go training block to training block to training block, and you'd actually get, I'd say you get really good at a lot of those things. Like the end of a 2-week OTB, OTH block, your balls. I mean, like you're celestially navigating, compass navigating. I remember we were using GPSs that were 4 times the size of your hat, basically the size of the flag sitting over our left shoulder, or my left, your right, But then it was on to the next skill. Yeah. And so you're constantly flirting with currency and competency. At development group, you could probably do all those things, but it's not your main job. Yeah. Your main job is to figure out a way to get to the threshold of a door and then own what's on the other side of the threshold. It's much more kinetically focused, in my opinion. Yeah. That was my experience when I was there. We spent almost every day in the kill house, refining our craft, mastering the trade. The kill house was amazing. Movable walls, multi-story. They could turn all the lights off. 360-degree ballistic shooting. We had access to the TF-160th, right? Again, budget. Amazing helicopters and even more amazing pilots. And we would do vehicle interdictions. We would do every different variation of a target set that you could ever possibly want to do as a SEAL over and over and over again. And you just don't have the access and ability to focus at that level at a conventional team. You don't, because you're responsible for so much more. So then when it comes to being overseas, you are, I would say, much more focused on that kinetic aspect because that's what your sweet spot is. And then that's what the ground force commanders and the battle space owners expect of you. The conventional forces are inherently kinetic if you work in the special operations realm, and every military branch has a special operations realm. It's, your ODA guys, your Green Berets, your Rangers, your MARSOC, Air Force PJ, CCT. They have a kinetic focus to their job. The JSOC aspect is more kinetically focused, and your job terminates in more of those type of activities. That was the biggest difference. There's a difference in capability because there's a difference in currency. Yeah. It's the same people. They wear the same uniform. If I took a doctor and I allowed him to operate or practice operating 1 day out of 30, he would not be as current and capable as a guy who did it 30 days out of 30. That's it. That's really the only difference. It can lull you into wanting to thumb your nose at the people who are your peers. It can lull you into being an asshole. Yeah. Some people take that opportunity, some don't. Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed, I guess, in addition to everything that you just outlined, is one of the things that I think hamstrings and holds back the regular SEAL teams is the reset button of every time you come back, is that you're getting a fresh batch of fucking retards from buds that are bringing you back to that ground zero level. Whereas at Dam Neck, like, guys at least have a couple of platoons under their belt, So I mean, to me that's an element too that I think plays a fucking pretty significant role. But
it does. And for people who are, again, might be getting lost, at a conventional team, you live on basically a 24-month cycle. You start an 18-month workup, and at the beginning of that, you meet your platoon. Yeah. You meet the people you're going to be with for the next 2 years. And at the end of that 2 years, 60% you think leave?
Yeah.
The leadership is certainly going to leave, which sometimes is a blessing.
Yeah.
But and there'll be a core group of guys, but then it's 5 or 6 new guys.
Yeah.
Then it's new leadership, new head shed, and you have to re-gel and re-figure out how you're going to work together and the strength and the weaknesses and break your unit up into pieces to make sure that you're mutually supporting. At development group, when I graduated from Green Team, I think 4 guys went to Gold Squadron.
Yeah.
There was 40 dudes there.
Yeah.
They got a 10% influx of individuals, and not even every team got a brand new guy. And then every year it was every year it was a slow influx of individuals. It's not this bolus of fresh bodies. So I think it lets you keep up on step a little bit more.
Well, then, and I think just in terms of currency and competence that you speak of is that, a guy with 2 platoons under his belt, while isn't going to be at the level that dev group guys are, he's still way fucking closer than a guy fresh out of STT.
And you can get the guy there quick after 2 platoons, especially if you strip away a lot of the other stuff they were focusing on. And you hand him a M4 or a HK 416 and say, this is your tool.
Yeah.
Master it.
This is your fucking scalpel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Amen. Just real quick, I know for me it didn't, but did politics play any type of role for you while you were on active duty in terms of it being a backdrop to feeling certain ways about countries you were in, what you were doing, who you were there with? Did that play any role, or was it kind of just a non-factor like it is, I think, for most of us?
I did not vote while I was in the military, and perhaps I'm an idiot, but the way I thought of it was that if you are an action arm of foreign policy, you should not have an input on the direction that it takes. When you enlist in the military, you serve, or you swear an oath, right, to support and defend the Constitution and uphold the orders of the officers above you and the President of the United States.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you have to like the President of the United States, and doesn't mean that you should like your job even more because you love the President of the United States. In my opinion, it shouldn't matter. You're serving the people, right, and the will of the people, or the elected officials that are supposed to govern the people. Whether or not you feel represented by that is a different story, but I never really thought about it.
Yeah.
If I'm being totally honest, I paid enough attention to politics to harass the people that I worked with by antagonizing them in arguments.
Yeah.
That's all that I did.
Yeah. No, I'm fucking right there with you. I mean, to me, I'd say similarly, like I think with most guys, it's the guy on the right and the left mentality of like, it doesn't matter why we're here. It doesn't matter who told us, why they told us. The fact is that we're here, like, when flash crashes are going off and bullets are snapping over your head, like it doesn't fucking matter anyway. Like the fact is your job is to fucking kick ass and come home. But for me, and I'm curious if you had any of this too. I mean, I did a little over 12 years, but even in that amount of time, as I got further down the road in terms of career, and that little bit of peek behind the curtain was a little bit of the Wizard of Oz disparity, in terms of like, God damn, really? There was a little bit of that, a little bit of disenfranchisement, and it's so romanticized as a bud student and as a new guy and whatever, that as you start to peel some of those layers of that fucking leadership onion away, I found some kind of heartbreaking shit, at least from my perspective. Did you have a similar experience? Yeah.
I mean, the harder you look through the magnifying glass at the SEAL teams, at the seams, the more you're going to find the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And the reality is the military is a massive bureaucracy. It's not fast moving. Mm-hmm. The SEAL teams are faster moving. The JSOC commands are slightly faster moving than most. But if you look hard enough, you'll find it. You'll find, what I try to tell people is that there's weeds in every lawn, regardless of the size. That's true of...
And how nice the rest of the grass is.
Correct. It's true of special operations. It's true of JSOC. It's true of whatever garden or grass that you're looking at. You're going to find some weeds. And the harder you look, the more you're going to find. You're going to find people who are there for self-serving reasons. You're going to find people who are there for a bullet on a resume, and that's all they want is a bullet on a resume. You're going to find people there for political aspirations. I'd say there's 2 of those individuals in the news recently.
Greitens and fucking Tippins.
Yeah. Don't vote for him.
Yeah, fucking shitbirds extraordinaire.
Unbelievable. And again, the SEAL team leadership could crush both of their souls, but they don't.
Yeah.
And they should. Yeah. And it's wrong. And it speaks to the moral compass of the SEAL teams, but it's a different topic. Yeah. Yes. Eventually you pull back the curtain and you realize that the machine running the engine is actually a donkey with a fly buzzing around its head. And you go, God damn it.
And a lame fucking back quarter.
It is. Yeah. And, when I do public speaking and people ask me about leadership, I always say exactly the same thing. I say, during my time in the SEAL teams, I was surrounded by the most exceptional leaders that I've ever seen that have embodied every bit of humility and accountability and responsibility and empowerment. And I was also surrounded by the worst leaders that I've ever seen that embodied the exact opposite of all of those qualities that I just mentioned, because it's human beings. Yeah. And no selection process is perfect. There are some that are better than others. The SEAL selection process, I think, works really, really well. Yeah. You're still going to get weeds that come through. They're there. I did my best to not let the anomaly paint the norm, but you want to talk about, you get some bad taste in your mouth for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I had similar experiences in that, like I said, just as I went further and further along, I became, a little bit disgruntled in that regard. But to me, the irony is that, as I went further along, I also saw guys who, had stuck around long enough and had put up with enough shit and had buried their own careers, for the greater good of the community because they were good guys. Because, I mean, it seemed to be kind of the running joke, while we were in, is that like the turds float to the top and the good guys are like, fuck this, I'm out of here. I'm going to go start a business or whatever. And
there's some truth to that.
Yeah. I mean, so the guys that stayed in, like there was a kind of a dichotomy of that, is that I saw more of the fuck really, type of leaders. But then I also saw guys that I was like, holy fuck, man, my hat's even further off to you for sticking around and towing the fucking line the way that
you can game it. I mean, let's be honest, you can game the military system.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys do.
You can. If you have a pulse and a certain amount of time in service, you are eventually going to get put into a leadership position. Mm-hmm. If you progress far enough up the ladder, there's no coming back down. Yeah. You can cut the rungs off underneath the person in the hopes that they fall, but they generally don't. Yeah. And then, because it's a pyramid, they can't go any higher, and nor can you or others until they have either time out or whatever reason they may choose to leave. Yeah. I mean, you can absolutely game it.
Yeah. Yep. No, absolutely. So in your instructor time, instructor duties, coincidentally, we were actually there at the same time, which I know you were in second phase. Yep. I was a brown shirt rollback coordinator in PTRR, so we didn't really work together then. But
we were over at the pool deck all the time, though.
Yeah, we were there at the same time. So, for me, I'm curious to get your take. I mean, for me, that was a pretty unique and fascinating time. In a good way, in seeing behind the curtain of, most team guys just have the experience of going through it. And, there's not a huge percentage of us that have, I would say, the honor and pleasure of actually being ones facilitating that selection process. But to me, like, I will always be really proud of that experience. And what I found really fascinating was the psychology behind why guys quit and watching that process of going from inspired the same way you and I were, and then making that crippling and life-altering decision in the most negative fucking way possible to say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. And watching like that, magnitude of a decision take place during stressful times right in front of your face was fascinating. What was your experience, I guess, as an instructor in terms of that, or in general?
I think that my time there, I spent 18 months there, it could possibly be the most rewarding tour of my career. Yeah. If you look at it for what it is, you have the ability to be wildly impactful on the community moving forward. Because I tried to think of it from the eyes of my 18-year-old self, looking at the instructors wearing the green shorts and the blue shirt and the ridiculously gay starched hat.
The 8-point.
Yeah, and I don't mean that in the old English definition of happy. I'm freaking terrified of those guys. Jump, hey, no problem, how high? Run, how fast, how far? Yeah. I remember what that felt like. And I remember when I encountered my first Bloods instructor, in the back of my head, I had this thought of, I think this dude's a piece of shit. And it stuck with me. And then later on in my career, I ended up serving with that person. And that initial thought, it was reinforced.
No shit.
And it was found to be true. And I didn't ever want to be that guy. And I mean, it's your chance to be a representative of the community that these guys are volunteering in a time of war, mind you, post 9/11 now. I don't think you and I necessarily knew what we were getting into a degree. I had an idea, but my career ended up being more than I ever thought it could be, in going in directions that I never thought it could go. And we volunteered in peacetime. Yeah. There's something to be said for people who put their life on hold and volunteer in a time of war.
Vastly different.
Yeah, vastly different. And I mean, I was there from 2006 to late 2006 to October 1st of 2008. There was some kinetic activity taking place. People were dying a lot. But I loved it. I loved the psychology aspect as well, too. I loved talking with people who quit. And I would love to be able to say that I was doing like some type of sociology experiment. Yeah. But truthfully, I was trying to weaponize their reasoning on other students because I wanted to make as many of them quit as possible because I don't want them to die. Yeah. And you don't want your brothers to die. You only want to get the right people to make it through. And once I realized that the common theme existed between most of them that quit, they just got overwhelmed in a moment of being low. Yeah. Like, all right, well, I have these elements that I can use: water, temperature, sleep. I can push you low. Yeah. And then, maybe I just need to try to overwhelm you. And I would start with the first student in line, and if he ignored me, I'm like, fuck you. I just go to the next student in line.
Maybe you're weaker.
But it's funny, but you can see the seeds of doubt sprouting. Oh, yeah. And that was my simple recipe for getting students to quit, is I would try to make them think about their world in a big perspective. Like, can you really be this cold for 180 days? You really think you can tolerate me in Hell Week for the next 7 days? Because every minute of every shift, I'm going to be up your ass. Yeah. And of course, I started with the officers. Yeah. Why? Because fuck them. Yeah. Even though I was an officer at the end of my career. That was a fake officer, though.
Limited duty. Heavy on the
limited. Light on the duty. No, but it's a rock, paper, rank organization. Yeah. If you're going to go into the military as an officer, you better be damn well ready to lead, and you better not lead by pointing at your collar device, because I'm going to knock it off your collar as I'm banging your teeth down your throat. Yeah. So I would start with them, and I would work my way down. But I took the job very seriously, and it was my personal perspective. I taught second phase, which is diving. We taught open circuit, which means bubbles escape; closed circuit, which means they don't. And there's a test called pool comp that I think was 4 weeks into it. And if you pass pool comp,
it's pretty much
you got like high 90th percentile. You could be stupid and the fastest way out of the SEAL teams is probably an alcohol-related incident. Yeah. So you could do that
or safety violation.
Or safety violation. Yeah. Feel free to do both of those at any time. Yeah. You're going to get ejected faster than a Elon Musk rocket launching a car into space, right? But absent that, if you pass pool comp, you're probably going to be in. Yeah. And one thing that I really tried to do was, one, I always treated the students fair and equitably. Pre-pool comp, even like when I worked Hell Week shifts, because all the instructors have to. I never yelled, not even a single time when I was at Buds. I never raised my voice. And I actually think that freaked him out more.
Psychologically, that has such, you see like the Marine DI in contrast to the SEAL instructor, and it's polar fucking opposite. And for sure, like a raised voice, the same with parenting. It's a lot with dogs, actually, is, it becomes white noise,
the quieter you talk, the harder they have to listen.
Yeah. Well, and the harder it is not to listen. Yeah. To me, like the harder it is to block that out. If they're having a almost monotone, like spooky fucking narrative, or narrators type of voice right there in your fucking ear, like you can't block that out as well, but.
And again, I tried to remember that I'm looking at students, but I'm also looking at peers at some point, especially past pool comp. And they may not end up being my peers, but they're going to end up being peers of people that I know. Yeah. And again, I remember being a Buds instructor and having that asshole, or a Buds student, and having that asshole instructor and just logging it in the back of my head. Like, I'm going to see you one day at a bar. Yeah. And you're going to be loaded, and I am going to cold cock you so hard in the side of the ear. And it just, like you can plant seeds as an instructor that there will be resentment harbored for the rest of their life towards you. And there's no reason to do it. You're not a better instructor if you do that. And I'm glad I took it as seriously as I did. I I ended up doing a lot of the, like every Friday they were supposed to, or they weren't supposed to, the students did, they would sit down and they would do core value talks for like an hour. It's just Q&A. Yeah. And most of the time it would be a chief petty officer or above who would conduct those. And I ended up doing most of them because I would just sit there and I would just talk with them and I would answer questions and I would answer them completely honestly about SEAL teams. They would ask about combat. They would ask about the impact of SEAL teams on married life, on how it, and how all of those things exist and the push and the pull. And I'm glad that I took it as seriously as I did, because when I went to Team 3 in my next duty station, I ended up working with like 30 of those kids, which is what they were. They were kids.
Yeah.
And I had a great relationship with all of them. I'm sure there's some out there that hate my guts, and you know what? That's the way the cookie crumbles. Nobody's perfect, and I really don't care. If everybody loved me, I was actually doing my job wrong.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to love me. Actually, I just want them to be good SEALs.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think those are very poignant, experiences that you can glean a lot of, life lessons from that. Really, no matter where you're at, is taking that same attitude. I mean, I know for a lot of times, depending on where you're at in life, it can be easy to not take something seriously or not find the value in doing something. And obviously, at a command such as that, it's almost impossible not to draw some of those principles from. But to me, taking that attitude into no matter what the fuck you're doing, I don't care if you're making French fries at Burger King, like, having a similar mentality, I think, is just a good way to make the world a fucking better place. But that's good shit. I love hearing about it. So moving on, you went back to the teams after that, got the what we in the Navy call the Mustang, route or commission in terms of being a prior enlisted and then getting a commission. If you can,
I think of it as being an unbridled stallion. But
sure, of course you do. That's fucking convenient.
It's an unbridled stallion that must run free. Yeah, I don't know where the term Mustang comes from, but it's a prior enlisted that becomes an officer.
Yeah. So what was the deal with that, basically? I mean,
so I got shot in the middle of deployment, and that deployment was my LPO tour.
No shit.
And the Navy, in their infinite wisdom, considered my LPO tour to be incomplete. And if you want to advance in the military system, there are mandatory go, no-go wickets. And in the Navy, the big jump is from E6 to E7, right? Yeah. Petty officer, first class, super heavy on the petty, to chief petty officer, still very heavy on the petty, is your LPO tour. Yeah. Without that, every year you fill out, you have a notebook in front of you, you literally create a record, and from my understanding, your record gets about 30 seconds in front of a rater. And the first look that it gets, they're looking for all of your mandatory leadership positions. Yeah. The most important one being for chief is LPO.
And for those listening, that's leading petty officer, which is kind of like a main supervisor of a platoon, but
like middle. I would say like a middle manager, and then you get to chief, and you would certainly be. You're not in the C-suite. I would consider that more the O's, but you're definitely upper management at that point. Yeah. So my record got swept off the table 2 years in a row, and I had good evals, I had good awards, I had good experience administratively and in combat, and it just kept getting turned down, and I wasn't ready to be done in the military. And so then I became the LPO at second phase, but you have to hold the position for 2 years. So when I first got there, I had to wait till a guy finished. Yeah. A year after being there, he finished. So I actually was only LPO for like 6 months. So I basically got put on hold. I would have gotten put on hold for about 5 years because I didn't meet the criteria for having completed my LPO tour. Because apparently getting medevaced out to launch stool is unsatisfactory in nature.
Deal breaker.
I know. I shouldn't have jumped in front of that AK round. I don't know what I was thinking. But I was looking at my options, and I stumbled across a commissioning program that didn't require a college degree. And it was actually designed for the fleet. And in the history of the SEAL teams, it had only been used by E7s and E8s that either transitioned to the warrant program, because it's kind of the same package you put in. It's actually the identical package. I think you just check a box. One says warrant officer, one says LDO. An LDO, the difference between the two, an LDO is still considered a line officer. And I mean, really the only difference on that is that you wear a star on your sleeve, which means you can still maintain some semblance of tactical command, or you can be put into a tactical leadership position. A warrant officer no longer is supposed to serve in that capacity, although I'm sure there are examples of them needing to or having to be in an in extremis situation. So I put a package together. I had my commanding officer from development group write me an awesome recommendation. He ended up being the commanding officer of the Bin Laden raid. So he had a quite storied career. So it was a good recommendation. And from my team leader, he wrote me one, and the command master chief, and I put it in. And in a program that had historically only selected E7s and E8s, I got picked up first as an E6 over 28 other applicants. So I ended up becoming the first E6 selection in the LDO program in the history of spec war, of naval special warfare, not spec war in general.
Pretty sure there's a plaque for that.
It's a belt buckle. Yeah. It's pretty big.
God, welcome to Texas.
That's why I picked belt buckle. So October 1st of 2008, I went from being an E6 to an O1 with no additional training.
That's fucking great. That's classic textbook fucking
I
Navy.
literally went to the Navy Exchange across the street, and I said, hey, I need some officer uniforms. So they fitted me. Yeah. And I had them double and triple check to make sure that I was like putting the belt on the right way. They later sent me off to Newport, Rhode Island, to the most ridiculous, I guess, like Mustang University, which was completely designed for fleet individuals. I was there with another SEAL, and we were excused from 3/4 of the training. Like they were literally doing like MoBoard type stuff, like radar. The guy was like, you guys are fine. See you on Thursday. Jesus. So really, I went from being an enlisted guy to an officer overnight. Yeah. Zero additional training, and then from there became the training officer at SEAL Team 3.
I got to tell you, that story in and of itself says a lot about both the military and the community. You know.
I mean, the advancement system is obviously broken.
Yeah, I mean,
because if you're going to pick me up, you're not paying attention.
That's 12 shades of fucked up. That's fucking great.
Yeah. How do you know that the officer selection program is broken? Yeah. Because I got through.
You slipped through the cracks. Those are the weeds you're talking about. Real quick, if you could, just can you share the experience of when you were wounded?
Yeah, it wasn't pleasurable.
Yeah, no shit.
It was not. Just
a little pinch.
You know, it was not an abnormal night. It wasn't atypical in any way. I was actually on I don't know what it would be called. If it would be called a cross-training deployment or it would be a currency deployment. But I got shot February 5th, 2005. And in that time period, or at that time, development group was heavily focused on Afghanistan. And the Army component of JSOC, just because I don't know what name they're currently using or they want to be used by, I'm just going to say the Army component of JSOC was heavily focused on Iraq. And the powers that be, sometimes they make very good decisions. And they realize that it's probably not good to have that much geographic specificity. So they wanted to take an element from each and train with and deploy with the other one. So I was actually on a deployment with Army guys, 5 other Blue guys, which is the JSOC term for development group, TF Blue. Army guys are TF Green. We were with them in Iraq, based out of the Green Zone, staying in one of Uday and Qusay's palaces. We would go banging at night and then sit on inflatable flamingos in their pool.
Popping Viagra and drinking Johnny Walker Blue Label.
We would go the other way. So I was working with those guys, and I get asked often on my thoughts about other special operations forces, and I have the same answer every time. I got nothing but respect. Yeah. Even internally in the SEAL teams, and specifically at JSOC, there were people who were like, fuck those Army guys, and I'm sure some of the Army guys were like, oh, fuck those Navy guys. I had great experiences with them. Yeah. Still maintain contact with some of the guys I was on deployment with. They became really good friends. At an operator level, awesome. They're no different. Yeah. They just wore a different uniform. Yeah. At the higher levels, the political levels, I'm sure because they're battling for budget and probably operational ability, or not ability, but operational mission sets, I could see there probably be some tension. But so we were banging hard with those guys. I mean, God, it was awesome. Every night we would go and the sun would go down and you'd get your game gear on and the target set would start lighting up and we would launch and we would roll it into another one. We had a full TF-160th package with Blackhawks and Little Birds and DAPs. We had the MHs and the AHs, which are the Magnum PI helicopters. You can sit on the skids, or they have rocket pods, and they literally aim with a freaking grease marker. The pilot gets up there, he's like, and if he misses, he's like, and moves it over. Those guys are badass. So, I mean, like 5 nights out of 7, I was on the skid of a Little Bird, 50 feet over the top of Baghdad, just banging targets out. It was awesome. In this particular night, we were doing what's called a GAF, or a ground assault force. We were taking vehicles because it was in Baghdad itself. And we walked through a burning garbage dump, which was awesome.
Yeah, which is now your favorite scent of aftershave.
Yes, indeed. It smells amazing. And I forget who we were after and what we were doing because it wasn't atypical. It was totally just another night. And I was walking point for my element. And I know we were looking for a particular handset, meaning a cell phone. And we were having some difficulties actually locating it, and we were making some noise in the process. We actually had somebody run out of a courtyard and see us further down the road. We pursued them and detained them, determined that they were not the people we were looking for. We let them go. I'm pretty sure we shotgun breached a door or two during that time period. Point being, we didn't necessarily have our ninja slippers on anymore.
Yeah.
So for about 10 minutes, I was standing on a ladder looking over a courtyard wall, and all the courtyards there have probably 6 to 8 foot walls that are 6 to 8 inches thick of mud. Just looking at the front of a building, and there was a light on in the main front window, and it looked a lot like an American house, at least in the architecture, where it had a recessed window, and it looked like a section of the house came out that could have had like a normal place where a garage door was going to be, except for the garage door was a window in this instance. And then the widget guy, who I don't know magically knows where these things are, he said, "Hey, this is actually the building." So I hopped over the wall and was going to make movement to the door because I was going to hold security while a friend of mine ended up putting a breaching charge on the door. But something in the back of my head just told me just to hang out. So I waited until I heard some more people come over the wall off the ladder. And I started making my way towards the door. And right when I got to the corner of the building that was sticking out, before I turned my back on the window, I wanted to take a look in it, just as a good operational principle to stay alive. And as soon as I took my head off of the window, or my vision and attention off of the window that was lit, and I swung it to the right, I heard off my left shoulder just gack, 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 and the first round out just pounded into my hip, and it spun me sideways and kicked my feet out from underneath me. It felt like I had a 9-inch nail and a baseball bat and just let fully juiced up Jose Canseco or Mark McGuire take a swing at me.
God damn.
Flat on my back. Gunfire erupted from the house. It seemed like it took about 4.5 years, but it was probably about a half of a second, and the guys on the wall started hammering back. I ended up pinned underneath the vehicle. I had a shotgun underneath my right shoulder, and the bungee strap that I had attached to my armor ended up wrapping around a piece of the undercarriage. So I was trying to get out from underneath the vehicle while staring at AK fire from probably about 15 feet away, just listening to the rounds impact on the vehicle. And my buddy ended up having to come over and grab me and drag me around the corner, basically right underneath the window that I was going to look in, which was empty and dark. And they continued to prosecute the target. And there ended up being 8 guys wounded that night. Some of them were blue on blue, actually. The CAG, whatever. The CAG guys. Damn it. I think that's an unclassed name, so we should be fine. Had made entrance on the other side, and they were working their way internally towards the building that the guy was shooting from, and they had gotten into a gunfight inside. Well, they ended up breaching a metal door that was facing the train that was coming towards us. So there were multiple gunshot wounds, and then there was wounds sustained from the breaching charge itself, because we put a C6 strip on that thing,
Jesus. Which
is a robust charge. And I know that's not going to make sense to a lot of people, but it's enough to take down a very heavily reinforced metal door. Yeah. And I don't think this door was either of those things. So most of the explosive blast went into the Army personnel. They ended up flying in little birds to get the people who were the most severely wounded out. I ended up getting put in the back of a Bradley fighting vehicle with another guy that I was with who'd been shot in the hand. And that was it. That was the end of my deployment.
In terms of your triage on yourself, what did you do anything to yourself to help mitigate blood loss and shit like that?
So I grabbed high on my left leg. It's funny. My buddy who ended up pulling me around the corner, he's an awesome guy. He's out now thriving, doing his own thing in the civilian world. He comes over and he's got a pair of trauma shears. He's like, dude, move your hand, man. I want to see how bad it is. And I looked at him like, fuck you, dude, direct pressure. Because I was probably too much of a bitch in the moment. If I had seen my own blood squirting out, I'd been like, great. So in the end, it actually wasn't bleeding that bad. I mean, the pants that they cut off me in the hospital were soaked in blood on that side. But all they ended up doing was wrapping Curlex and gauze, like a big wad of gauze, and wrapped it and then left it. I've still never had surgery.
Was it a clean through and through?
No, it's all still in my pelvis.
No
So
shit.
there were metal bars in the window, and I never saw the guy. I just heard it. But from what I was told, basically, as I turn my head, full Somali style, a gun just comes up and just got. So the round that hit me, I suspect nicked a piece of the rebar that was in the window because it was coming apart. And when you look at the x-ray of my leg, the penetrator of the round is on the right-hand side of my pelvis, and there's a couple hundred pieces of frag in my leg that's just spackled everywhere.
You had me at penetrator.
I know I did. That's why I used it. And then the second round that the guy shot at me, because it spun me, it actually hit my belt, burned about 3 inches of my belt, and the copper jacket is welded to the belt that I was wearing that night. And then the round continued through.
God damn.
So if it hadn't have spun me, it probably would have just detonated my pelvis. And anybody that knows anything about medicine, there's some important things in your pelvis. In my time on Earth would have been probably counted in minutes if I'd have been lucky. But they took me to the green zone. Like I said, I wasn't the most injured person there by any stretch of the imagination. I wasn't happy about it. Wasn't having fun. But my main complaint was my ankle. I felt like somebody had just taken Thor's hammer, probably Thor himself, and just pounded on my ankle. And come to find out, it was because the round either severed or interacted with my sciatic nerve. Oh, okay. So it short-circuited it down all the way to my foot. And I just didn't know what it was. I remember them slowly and gingerly cutting off my left foot. Not my left foot.
You're pretty mobile.
Slowly and gingerly, they cut my foot off. No, they cut the laces off, and they took my shoe off. And I remember just like, God damn, it hurt. Because I hadn't had any morphine. Because I had never had any. And I thought if you took it, it'd be like the movies, and I'd be like blowing bubbles. Come to find out, it doesn't do shit. They ended up juicing me with like a 2-liter bottle and then handed me a phone to call my wife. That was an interesting experience. But the doctor said, well, at first, they had to check to make sure that there was no internal bleeding, so I got a finger up my ass. That was emasculating.
Bonus.
And then he's like, well, do you want us to try to take it out? And at least at that point, I had...
Was he talking about the finger or the bullet?
He might have done both at the same time.
Has both your hands on my shoulders.
Yeah. I had the wherewithal in the moment to say, what do you mean by take out the frag? He's like, well, there's some ferrous metal in there, obviously. So we're not going to give you an MRI. What we'll do is we will knock you out, put you on your stomach, tube in your mouth, 2-dimensional x-ray. And basically what we'll do is exploratory cuts through your ass cheek, cutting and spreading and looking for the metal along the way. Yeah,
I was with you until exploratory.
Yes. And I remember saying to him, is there an option B? And he said, yeah, well, your body will naturally encapsulate it in calcium, and as long as the lead portion of the round doesn't contact a bone, you should be fine. I'm like, motherfucker, can you lead with that?
Yeah, no shit.
So I went with option B, and so they put me on a pretty heavy morphine drip and put me up, and they literally just wrapped it. I mean, I was on pain suppression was basically all that it was, and then the next day, myself and a couple of the guys were moved to Balad. The day after that, and again, I was getting heavy doses of morphine, and it was weird. I remember like waking up and like, I'm pretty sure it was McChrystal, like standing at the end of the bed. And I was like, okay. And then like back to sleep. And like next thing you know, we're getting loaded on in C-141 that has stretchers on the far wall, 2 rows of stretchers in the middle, and stretchers on the right wall, completely full of dudes who are in the worst shape that anybody's ever seen them. Yeah. A doctor assigned to every 2. I was a JSOC, right? More budget. I had a doctor for me. Yeah. I mean, there's some of the difference too. They traveled with me to Germany, then went back to Iraq. Yeah. Got to Germany, and then you started the journey home from there. But I mean,
what year was that?
2005.
2005. So,
it was early. They weren't, especially when I got back stateside, they weren't necessarily used to seeing a lot of injuries from overseas.
Yeah. That's I guess for me that I didn't realize that was prior to Buds. I mean, obviously explaining it, but
Buds was kind of my rehab.
Yeah.
I chose to leave development group for a variety of reasons. I satisfied my minimum term there and not a day more. And I left for myself and I left for my family.
Yeah. During that rehab process, was there anything out of the ordinary? I mean, was that process, was there a lot of pain involved, or was it fairly textbook, or what was that like?
So for about a year, I would say the neuropathic pain in my leg was bad. Yeah. And at that time, I can't speak to how it is in the modern day or what the medicine is like now. It was definitely an environment of prescribe and check in with me later.
Yeah.
I had Oxycontin, I had Percocet, I had Vicodin. They had me signing waivers for the dosage of gabapentin that they were giving me, and Neurontin. I can't remember which one of those it is, but one of them is an anti-seizure medicine for kids, and it has a secondary or tertiary side effect of reducing neuropathic pain, but it also reduces your central nervous system processing, and it had an impact. And it didn't help that I was completely in the rabbit hole of boozing my ass off to try to go to sleep. I was taking 3 and 4 Ambien and I could stay awake. But I was drinking every night. I had 13, 14 pill bottles that I could take from, and I was. And I remember I was driving with my wife, and she asked me a simple arithmetic question about, it had something to do with the price of gasoline and filling up the vehicle. And gas back then was like $1.15. And I think we probably needed to spend $10. The problem was that I recognized I couldn't do the math, and I recognized why. And the Navy didn't have me on a rehab protocol. I would go in every other day, and they would put me on an E-stem machine. They would just put the pads on my muscle, and they would fire it for an hour, and see you later. Go do your thing. So I did my thing in the pill bottles and drinking my ass off. And I put my wife through hell a lot in my career for sure, but I'm sure that year of our marriage is one that stands out for her, where I was not her favorite person. Because I sucked. I was in a bad place. I was the exact opposite of what I wanted to be. And I remember in that moment, though, when she asked me about the gas and not being able to do the math, I knew I had to make a change. But I also knew that if I stopped cold turkey on a lot of those meds, it was going to be an issue, specifically the gabapentin and Neurontin, because if you lower your threshold to seizures and then you stop all of a sudden, you're going to have seizures, even if you're not prone to them. So I slowly started working myself off of them. And that's actually how I found CrossFit and ended up getting introduced to the people that created the program and ran the program. I used that as rehab in and of itself. It was painful. I had limited range of motion, but if I could get myself to exhaust myself in the gym and I could sweat, I could finally fall asleep. And that was the biggest difference for me, was actually being able to rest. And slowly over about the course of a year, I got myself off of the pain pills. Were the easiest ones to get off of. I think I was doing it more out of habit and leisure time enjoyment. And if I'm being honest, and the Neurontin and gabapentin ones were a little bit tougher because I did start feeling the nerve sensation and the burning. And I don't know if I learned to ignore it or it eventually just went away, but about a year later I was off everything.
No shit.
Yeah.
Shout out to CrossFit, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. When I was an instructor there, I was part of a group that there's a handful of us that went from the center in early 05. It was like February, March of 05, and went up to Santa Cruz to a level 1 cert. And I remember, had never heard of it. It was basically like, hey, why don't you handful of you assholes go up there and see what this fucking thing's all about? And one of the guys got rhabdo. We all fucking threw up after Fran, like it was a fucking total shit show. And of course, like a bunch of dumbasses, I was just coming off of an 8-month convalescent leave stint, losing 40% of my lung capacity from valley fever, which is a whole other fucking story. But so I was kind of in that saying, like, that's the big reason, or really the reason why I ended up at Bud's too, was to kind of get back on my feet physically after that. But going up there on the backdrop of that and having no idea what I was getting myself into, holy shit, you talk about eating a fucking humble pie.
Well, the best thing to do is, if you're new to CrossFit, is to dive in head first.
Do
Throw
Fran,
caution to the wind.
Yeah, do Fran fucking as prescribed with everything you have, like I did.
So I ended up working for them for years afterwards on the weekend, and I got to, again, administer that protocol to many people who came in with a chip on their shoulder. And then they deposited that chip in many small pieces.
In a bucket in the fucking hallway.
It works. It's not ethical or responsible to introduce it to people like that, but it serves a purpose.
Yeah, but we did it anyway. So I'm assuming that played probably the largest role in your medical retirement?
Yeah, cumulatively, they looked a lot at the concussions as well. And I went in, so I was 5 days from separating just from the Navy. I was just going to get out. Because when I got back off my last deployment in 2010, I was told that, now that I'm on the officer side of the house, even though I was in a tactical role on that deployment, I needed to now do my AOIC tour and my OIC tour back to back. And I was like, no, that's not happening. Like, I actually want to be present for my kids and for my wife and for my family. So I was just going to separate. No retirement, nothing. And I went in for my physical, and the doctor said, no. we're not going to sign this. So I was in a pinch.
Yeah.
Because Daddy was going to stop getting paid in 5 days.
Yeah.
So I needed to call the officer detailer, who happened to be the commanding officer from Gold Squadron when I was there.
Yeah.
Same guy who wrote the evaluation for me and the recommendation. He's like, yeah, give me 30 minutes. Call me back. He's like, you're extended for a year. No problem. I'm like, oh my God, I love you. Yeah. So they sent me out to NICO, the National Intrepid Center of Excellence, which is attached to Walter Reed in the Washington area. And it was 30 days of the most intensive and encompassing medical treatment that I've ever received. The beauty of it is it was run by civilians. So therefore, it's better than the military.
They had their shit together and actually knew what they were doing.
Yeah. In large part, yes. If it's run by civilians, they're going to do a better job than most of the military organizations are going to. And I answered all their questions honestly. And they sit you down to talk to psychologists and psychiatrists and psychologists. I still don't know the difference between the two, other than one can prescribe meds.
Psychiatrists can prescribe meds, I think.
And I answered all their questions honestly. And when it came to my operational history, from experimental test jumping of tandem canopies to being around explosions to being blown up to being around breaching charges, I can't get an MRI because of the retained metal. So they had to make an estimate on exposure to concussions off of operational history, and the number they came back with was relatively high. It made me uncomfortable when they started talking about what it may look like in my later years from a cognitive perspective. So I left there like 150 pages of documentation. That was the true horsepower behind the medical retirement.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because that's definitely an atypical experience, as it relates to most, service members or veterans exiting of their prospective military branch. But to me, that's how it ought to fucking be.
I agree
for everybody. But I'm glad at least one of us had a good experience fucking springboarding out of the military.
I don't know if it was good. Well, it worked out in my favor.
I guess I would say appropriately fucking.
Everybody should get that screening.
Yeah.
And it would be, the best value would be, or the most telling information would come from if they got it when they came in and then when they left. Yeah. Because without a starting point, it's a little bit of a sliding scale.
Yeah, with no baseline. But to me, the fact that, if the entrance exam in terms of your medical screening at least gives you some sort of baseline that you're not, a complete fucking pile of broken parts. But at any rate. All right, so you find yourself medically retired. What I'm curious about, I know, we all have our own path, journey, story, etc. How did you find your purpose after leaving, and kind of bring us up to speed in terms of what you're doing now and all of that shit? Because I know there's a lot.
Yeah, accidentally would be the only word that I think is accurate. So I got out, and I remember driving in the day that I was picking up my DD 214, which is, I guess it's what would it be considered, a glossary of your service?
A snapshot.
Yeah, a snapshot. It lists when you came in, it lists when you're going to get out, all the schools you attended, your duty stations, and your the schools, your qualifications, your awards. There's a lot of information on that document, which actually a lot of people who are dishonest use to fool people who don't know how to read it. Yeah. Which is, again, a different story. Yeah. I remember the day I drove in and I left NAS North Island for the last time, and it was surreal, man. I was crying as I left the base because
so many memories there.
It was all I'd ever wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do next. And I don't know. I never thought about who I was going to be afterwards. Mm-hmm. So, that was in 2013. Last day of June of 2013, I went in and picked up my DD 214. And in that time period, a lot of the work we put in overseas was getting unraveled an inch at a time. Mosul, was falling. Ramadi. All of the literal and figurative and literal blood, sweat, and tears that guys that we both know they got put in those places was just getting unraveled. So I didn't find my purpose for a while. I sucked. I struggled. I was working for CrossFit. I was getting a paycheck, but that's what it was. It wasn't my purpose. It was paying the bills. And I got to the point where I couldn't watch the news anymore. It was driving me absolutely batshit crazy because I felt like I had no avenue to give back or to continue to do anything. And then I also just didn't know how. And I am a firm believer that I've never had a unique idea in my entire life. I just try to take the advice of people that are smarter than me. And a buddy of mine, I don't remember the exact conversation, but the subject of fundraising came up specifically for the Navy SEAL Foundation. And it piqued my interest a little bit. And then we started talking some more, of course, for a cocktail. It actually was a Killer Texan. Again,
all right.
It needs to be 1 part Killcliff. If you're a pro, it's 4 parts Tito's. I would recommend starting at the reverse of that. 4 parts Killcliff, 1 part's Tito.
Yeah.
You'll get there, people. Train.
Scale it.
Yeah, scale it. And he was like, hey, don't you jump? And it was his idea. Why don't you do something jump related and raise money for the SEAL Foundation? And it wasn't like an instantaneous ding, but really rapidly I realized, like, holy shit, that's cool. Like, what I really want to do is go fight. Yeah. That's what I want to do. I almost sometimes feel like that's what I was put on this planet to do, is to fight. But I can't. Yeah. Not in the way I wanted to. And then I started thinking about my own family and the strain. I was selfish in my approach to my world when I was in the military. And I think our job requires and demands some level of myopic focus on what it is that we're doing. And it wasn't until after I got out that I realized what I had put my parents through and the fucking hell that I had drug my wife through. Now, my kids don't necessarily remember it because they were very young, and I'm fortunate. I feel very lucky that's in that situation, but I was very selfish. The easiest role to fill in a military family dynamic is the service member, for sure.
Oh, fuck yeah.
You know? And I think the families are often forgotten. But I remember sitting on the skids of a helicopter at the 1 minute out, getting ready to go into a target that I knew was going to be hot, and thinking, is my mortgage check going to clear?
Yeah.
Or, or in moments overseas where instead of thinking about my job, I'm thinking about the argument that I had with my wife. And I'm thinking about the things that I wish I had said, and wishing that I could take back some of the things that I did say. And I realized, talking to my buddy and thinking about fundraising, that the next best thing that I can do, absent fighting with the guys, is to support their families. Because if you can take some of that strain off of the warfighter, it actually makes them more lethal. Yeah. So once I connected those dots in my head, I definitely felt like I was finding my sense of purpose again. And people ask me all the time, like, where did the wingsuit stuff come from? Well, I don't fucking juggle chainsaws. If I knew how to juggle chainsaws, I would have tried to set a record for juggling chainsaws. I don't know how to do that. Yeah. I fell in love with skydiving the first jump that I did. Yeah. And I was able to pursue that passion of my own, which is kind of rare inside of the military, to really be able to pursue an individual passion inside of that bureaucracy. Yeah. So I went to all the air schools, and I ended up basically going to all of the air schools. And got a bunch of jumps for somebody in the military, a very small amount of jumps for somebody who's outside and works in the sport. But I paired it up. I was like, all right, this is what I do. And that led me to, that's how I got introduced to Killcliff, actually. It was an employee of Killcliff who made that, gave me that thought, planted the seed. They agreed to fund it, which became my first sponsor, which became my first avenue into, I guess, what I'm still kind of doing now. My life is an absolute mess. My least favorite question is, what the hell do you do for a living? Because I don't know.
What would you say you do here?
That's a good question. I don't know. So that became my first sponsor in the skydiving world. Again, it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't a SEAL. Yeah. And the company was founded by a SEAL, so that helped. That really helped me bridge the gap between experience and where I was and where I needed to be to actually be a sponsored skydiver. So, and that led me to another sponsor, which eventually led to me leading some very influential people in the skydiving world who became friends. And I'm just a fan of surrounding myself with people who are way better than me. And I consistently and constantly still try to do that. So that led to some sponsors. And so the jumping career, if you want to call it that, kind of took off. And then I ended up finding a job that allowed me to kind of give back and teach some Air Force guys jumping skills, which also felt like, again, I was keeping a foot in the door with the fight. And I just came to the conclusion, not too long ago, really, probably a couple years at most, that I want to make a difference, man. I think that is also, in addition to people telling me that I couldn't be a SEAL, I think that was probably the other half of the equation. I just wanted to do something that made a difference. And I don't think of anything, or I can't think of anything that would make more of a difference than passing on the lessons that we were taught in our career. It blows people's minds when I talk about leadership, and the message I have on leadership is not unique. And guess what? It's not mine. It's what was taught to me. But what keeps you alive in a gunfight is the same thing that allows you to thrive in business. And that's why Jocko's killing it, and he should be killing it. People should listen to what he's saying. What he's saying is the truth. Mm-hmm. And I bet you Jocko would say the same thing. he's not necessarily creating his own message. He's crafting the message that we all learned in a manner that people can digest it. I don't think he would say this is my unique idea.
Yeah.
Because it's not, you know, and that's fine. He's passing on the legacy. He's staying in the fight. So somewhere in there, a buddy of mine hit me up and said, can you come speak at my company about teamwork, right? They're like, SEAL team. Oh, can you talk about teamwork? I'm like, all right, sure. Went and spoke at his company, and somebody in the audience said, can you come speak at my company? And so that slowly built as well, too. And somewhere in between the jumping and the speaking, I met a guy named Tate Fletcher, who was an ex-MMA fighter. He's got a podcast of his own, but I met him through the CrossFit world, actually. So it's weird how it all comes together. He introduced me to Joe. So I went and I did Joe's podcast, and we ended up staying in contact. And, you know, Joe's like, dude, you should start a podcast. So that's how that came to be. And the reason I enjoy doing that is because it's a larger microphone, literally and figuratively, that allows you to reach more people with a message that I think is important, and it's all driven around making a difference. Yeah. So I found my purpose again by accident, and I found it through listening to people who I respected and then taking action on it. I don't think there's a magic recipe. Yeah. You know, maybe it'll take people a while to find theirs, but I think if you do find it, I know I'm a more satisfied person now that I have a much more clear compass direction that I'm at least trying to follow.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it's interesting you say that because there's a ton of parallels between, you know, obviously, you know, coming into the teams, like there's a lot of similarities in terms of, you know, our journey along the way. And I'm similarly, I guess, in the last just few years really have kind of figured out and felt like I'm actually standing on my own two goddamn feet. Yeah. You know, and not like just looking around like, what the fuck am I doing? You know, even as purpose filled or you know, strategically driven as the exterior may seem to a lot of people because it's so dog heavy over the last 10 years, you know, since I exited the Navy. There's been a fucking ton of pivots. There's been, you know, a lot of doubt and times where I honestly I didn't know what the fuck I thought I was even trying to do in some instances. And
I have that happen to me on Thursdays.
Every Thursday. I schedule it actually. Today I'm going to wake up and not know what the fuck. It's a
sine wave. Yeah. And that's one thing I hate about, I don't understand social media. Yeah. I don't find it to be social or media. Yeah. But what I hate about it is it's selective, right? And people can put what they want, and look at me, my life's fucking amazing. And they're probably got a gun in their mouth every morning. They're like, pistol or toothbrush? Which one do I want to brush with?
Yeah. Well, it's a brochure. You know?
It is, and it's just not truthful. Yeah. And the truth is that I don't care who you are. You're going to be on a sine wave. Just deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's good days and bad days, and I think, you know, that for anybody listening, I mean, the epic and ever present question of, you know, what's the meaning of life to me? Like that, it's really the simplicity of it is as beautiful as it is poignant. Is that it's purpose, you know, because money. I mean, I know a lot of rich motherfuckers that are absolutely fucking miserable.
Most of them that I know are,
you know, and
they want for nothing. Yeah. They have everything, but they are. I mean, I can't speak for them, but if I were forced to, I would say they feel wildly unfulfilled. Yeah, and I think there's a number of reasons that swirl around that you know that contribute to that. But you know, for me, I know in my own happiness, at least, it's only been in the last few years where I really felt like what I was doing mattered. And was making a difference in people's lives, in law enforcement lives, and military lives as it relates to dog training and helping, you know, regular, average, everyday citizens understand and communicate to their dogs better and drawing parallels between that and raising kids and leadership. And it's all very connected. But, you know, that hasn't, I certainly, you know, 10 years ago, that wasn't the fucking case. Yeah. You know, like it really has been relatively recent. But in terms of the wingsuit stuff, how much of that are you still, like, is most of that recreation, or are you still doing some fundraiser or kind of mission-driven elements to that? I haven't done anything fundraising other than the record attempt, which was in 2015. The fundraiser is still active, and, you know, the donations, they still trickle in. I still am active with the SEAL Foundation to a degree, But again, to be honest, like right now, I'm pulling away from it because of how I currently feel about the SEAL community. It's nothing negative about the SEAL Foundation. It's my own, I'll be the first to say it's my own personal issue and desire to detach a little bit from it.
Yeah.
But it'll be back. You know, I think I can make more of a difference by passing on the lessons that I was incredibly fortunate to be surrounded by for basically so far my entire adult life.
Yeah. That was one of the things I know I've mentioned, you know, a number of times to me, like, because you and I had such a similar, you know, from a chronological standpoint, a similar time frame, that period of your life from 18, for me, it was from 18 to 30, you know, to grow up essentially. And you know, my parents did a phenomenal job in terms of the male role model. My dad did a spectacular job. You know, on the other side of the coin, my mom did an equally spectacular job. But you know, that only gets you to the point of when you leave the fucking nest and cut the cord. And
they can lay the foundation, but they can't build the house.
You know, but to have those experiences, you know, again, being surrounded by grown fucking men who led and walked and exemplified and exuded a warrior mentality in every fucking facet possible. I mean, that there's no better school for you know, becoming really an adult than that, you know, and I'll be forever grateful for that. I mean, to me, like I think it makes sense to have mandatory service for that same reason. You know? I
agree.
Because there's elements of things that you learn in the military that you can't pay to fucking learn anywhere else. You know,
I think we'd be a better nation if I would completely support a 2-year mandatory service, and I'd be fine if it was Red Cross. I don't care if it's you know, Habitat for Humanity. Just a service outside of yourself to change your perspective at least a little bit, hopefully, from me to we.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% in agreement with that. Spot on. Real quick, before we get into some political components that I know everybody's fucking wondering about. In terms of the bow hunting stuff, can you give us a fucking elevator pitch on the bow hunting?
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting one. For one, not everybody's going to have time to do it. Yeah. I love it because it's 90% of what we used to do. Mm-hmm. The navigation, cover and concealment, stalking,
physical prowess,
everything. Yeah. It's like that. You once you get out into the field and you're hunting, you're like, yes, I'm so happy. Like I've never been happier when I'm in the outdoors. And bow hunting is just ridiculously challenging. Yeah. And I, for myself, enjoy challenges. Mm-hmm. I suck at it, but I get to do it every day, and I don't worry about trying to become a master. I'd rather just worry about mastery at some point than being a master today. And for me, I got into it for one, the challenge, and two, to sustainably harvest my own meat and detach, at least economically, from the traditional factory farming. Yeah. I know that not everybody has the chance to do it, but if you do have the chance to do it, I think what you can expect to find are rewards in your life that have nothing to do with bow hunting. Yeah. Because it requires discipline and training and integrity. And, you know, it's just... Yeah.
To me, I mean, I've literally zero fucking experience doing it. I didn't grow up hunting. It doesn't do a whole lot for me in the traditional sense, especially here in North Texas, where, from my perspective, like what I like about bow hunting, especially in places like Montana, Utah, whatever, and there's bow hunters here too, but it's different. You know, to me, most people around here, and I would say probably 95% of the hunter population, I mean, it's like fucking legal poaching. You know, I mean, to me, like using corn feed, you know, deer feeders and trail cams and fencing and a deer stand and a scoped fucking 300 Win Mag over the course of a year, you know, to get certain animals into a certain area and then take them, like, to me, that's not fucking hunting. I mean, that's my take on it. Like, if that's what you're into, like, hey, I don't think it should be illegal. But, you know, to me, like, I wouldn't stand up there and beat your chest and be like, look at the fucking buck I just pulled. Like, it took you a year and $40,000 to do it. Like, you know.
I agree. That doesn't do it for me. Yeah. Again, if people want to do that, that's fine. But also that is where I think a lot of the negativity and people often associate a lot of rifle hunters with a dude sipping on Jack Daniels in a lawn chair in the back of a pickup truck. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's some people who embody that. Yeah. What I have seen, at least especially in the bow hunting community, is that they're the exact opposite of that.
Well, shit, you have to be. I mean,
If you want to be successful, you don't have to be.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to do it other than, to me, it's like anybody can sit in a fucking boat. That doesn't make you a fisherman. I mean,
correct.
You can sit.
Walking around with a bow in your hand doesn't make you a bow hunter.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, my point is, I guess, is that, my hat is off to fucking, like, I watch and follow some of Cameron Haynes stuff, and I know Joe's getting big into it, and you've been doing it. Which by default piques my curiosity into it, but
it's rewarding. I mean, and then I had the exact same feelings about hunting with the rifle. It's just I didn't feel like it was fair, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And then you pick up a bow and you realize all of those distances smash down into your face.
Yeah.
You're talking 30, 40 yards can sometimes be a long shot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to get next to an animal that is used to, in their genes, looking for tigers because they're going to attack their face.
Yeah.
So try to be a bush and then find a place where you can draw back and then place an arrow while you're getting the and control all the stuff you need to control. I mean, you would dig it. It's rewarding. And it's people are like, I'm talking about bow hunting again. I'm like, well, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's just like it's same as jiu-jitsu, right? It's like there's elements to it that go so far above and beyond the scope of actually rolling on the ground and fucking wrestling somebody that are life lessons that are ever present and prominent in our society and an outlet, especially as A or double A type male personalities that a lot of us have. I think it's great shit. I'm definitely interested in it. But all right, so
politics.
As we move into politics, everybody's fucking favorite. This is when we. I think, I don't know, we posed a question to everybody a couple weeks ago about, who do you want to see on Mic Drop or whatever, and a ton of fucking people like, got to get Andy on there and talk about politics and whatever, so.
I don't know why people would think I'm necessarily a political powerhouse. I think, honestly, all right, we'll see where this goes. I might be letting quite a few people down.
Yeah. No, I mean, to me, I think there's so few platforms out there that it's just like we'll fucking talk about whatever we want. I mean, I've listened to some of your stuff. I try to anybody that I think I'm going to interview or have on or know I am. I try not to actually listen to interviews that they're on or do.
I did the same thing because you end up you avoid certain topics.
Yeah, or having preconceived. Like I already know what you think. Like I don't want to know what you think until you've been on here. So it's fairly limited, but. At any rate, I know for all of the listeners for this show in particular, politics are a huge component in terms of just having a kind of a refreshing, no bullshit attitude towards it, and actually saying what's on our mind, which is the whole point of this thing. But I've got a whole slew of shit, how much we get to and
send it
and whatever. But anyway, first thing, it was the one you mentioned right out of the gate was gun control or more specifically
keeping kids safe in school.
Yeah, I mean, very recently here there was a shooting in Texas. 10 kids, or actually 8 kids, two teachers killed. There's been a ton of them, and people, there's such a divisiveness in terms of it goes from on one side it's the guns problem, on the other side it's just the people, and obviously those are kind of extremes on either end. I have the same thought process that you do, that Jocko does, that I think most people do in our field. And before I ask kind of your opinion, one of the things that I find really just fucking irritating is when it comes to policies like this, I find the squeakiest fucking wheel are generally the people that are the least educated about it, and that's on both sides. You can hear press conferences on either side of the spectrum of people talking that within 10 seconds, anybody that has shot a gun for a living can see how fucking ignorant and uneducated they are as it relates to firearms competency, and
they use the incorrect terminology.
I mean, everything.
I mean,
you name it. And so to me, it's like in just about every other realm of our society, like if it's a medical issue, you ask fucking doctors. It's fire safety. Who do you talk to? Like you don't talk to politicians about what the best fucking way to protect your house from a fire is. You talk to firefighters. Why is there not more engagement from our political parties and assholes that run the show to asking guys like us, or people that again have had a profession in terms of firearm competency? I don't know why there isn't more of that, but what to me, I know that it's an element of protecting. You've got to harden the schools first, but I'll let you get into it.
It's kind of like For one, it's frustrating. I agree with you. I'll be the first to say I am not an expert on school shooters and school shootings. I have never been in one. Thankfully, I wish that nobody ever had to be in one. I've been in plenty of shootings, though, and I've been around firearms almost my entire adult life. But I think you brought up a large portion of the problem just in your description. When there is an event, you have people who come out and they say guns are the problem. And then there is the other side of the coin where it says it's a societal problem. And in my personal opinion, there's an essence of both of those in there. But if the entire conversation is framed around just those two things, I don't think anybody is actually trying to solve the problem, because the problem is safety for kids at schools. I'll know that this country and the people in charge are taking this problem seriously when the leading topic is school safety. Yes, guns are an issue involved in that. Yes, society is an issue, and how we raise our kids and generational changes, that is an issue. But that's not going to stop a school shooting from happening tomorrow or from next week. I think we have reasonable gun legislation in this country already. I support the Second Amendment and reasonable gun legislation, which, like I said, I think we already have. I just don't see how adding more gun laws is going to change the behavior of people who are not interested in following the law.
Yeah.
Because the last time I checked, murder is illegal.
Yeah.
And that is not stopping the people who are going into schools with guns and murdering people.
Yeah.
I do believe we have an issue with society. And I did a podcast specifically about this recently, just trying to figure out, one, kind of just work my way through my own feelings on it. And I was thinking about the difference between when you and I grew up and when my kids are growing up. And it's not a difference in access to firearms. I could have gotten my hands on guns. You could have gotten your hands on guns. So guns have been here since the founding of this country. There's definitely more now than then, but it's been part of our culture. So it's not a difference of access.
I mean, I would argue they're the hardest to access at any given time in our nation's history right now.
I would have a hard time arguing against that for sure. So it's not an access to guns. And then I started thinking about the way that I interacted with people when I was the age of my son. And my oldest son turns 15 here in October. And one of the biggest differences that I keep coming back to is that when you and I were growing up, if we had a face-to-face interaction or interactions in general, the consequences from that interaction, whether they be good or bad, were instantaneous. If I wanted to run my mouth to you, there were very few ways that I could actually do it.
Yeah.
I could do it to your face and deal with the consequences.
I could write you a letter.
I could write you a letter. That was one of the ones I covered in the podcast. But that's assuming I knew your address, because I couldn't just look it up. Mm-hmm. If I knew your phone number, I could call you. And if I had your pager number, I could page you in the hopes that you could call me back and then I could talk shit to you. Yeah. That was really it. By and large, though, the interactions were directly tied to consequences. The things that you said were directly tied to consequences. And now I look at the world that my children are growing up in. And surprisingly enough, my kids like first-person shooter video games. Yeah. I am okay with that to a certain degree because I liked them as well, and I didn't turn into a serial killer. But what surprises me and worries me about those video games is not like the mode where you go in and you play the campaign. It's the mode where you go in and you play in this online universe and ecosystem. And I'll go down and I'll listen to my son playing, and he won't know that I'm there because I'm a sneaky bitch. But basically it's because he has headphones on and he doesn't pay attention very well. Yeah. And the way that people talk and interact is substantially different than the way you would talk and interact in an elevator. Mm-hmm. The things that people say to each other, that they say they're going to do to each other, the way that they interact, that shit wouldn't work face to face. But they can get away with it because there's no consequence. My son is connected to people through Snapchat that he doesn't actually know in real life. He can talk shit to anybody. He can pick any random name. He can see somebody getting piled on and getting bullied, and he can pile on with no interaction, or not an interaction, with no consequence. And, you know, I think one of the things that I've heard, and again, I bring up this name because I can't remember the other ones. I know that there's a couple other young men and women, but David Hogg, I heard him say one time, we're the mass shooting generation. And you're not. You're the avatar generation. You're the generation of people that can create yourself online and exist in this world that is detached and devoid of consequence. Coupled with that, just go out to a restaurant and watch families interact. They're not. They're doing this. They're looking down at their phone. It drives me nuts. Like you literally look around and a mother and a father, husband and wife and kids, and they're not talking to each other. They're sitting there on, again, social media that's not social and it's not media.
Yeah.
So they're more connected than they've ever been. But to what? They're actually more disconnected. And I think somewhere in there is this detachment from real life, from the reality where you can find yourself in a place that, fuck it, I'm in pain. I'm going to take a gun to school and impart and inflict this pain on somebody else.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that makes absolutely no goddamn sense in the world. I can't even imagine a way that would ever be something that I would even consider doing. But I grew up in a different world with a different set of rules. And I don't know if that's the difference, but I think there is something there for sure. So that's the societal aspect of it, and that's only part of it. But God damn it, make the kids safe at school. And people, that takes time. Really? Now, I'm not a fan of the TSA by any stretch of the imagination.
I don't know anybody who is other than the TSA.
Correct. But do you remember the airports pre 9/11? Mm-hmm. I remember walking through my dad with a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, I kept the 3-inch Spyderco in my fucking pocket.
When I was a kid, I would walk up and chat with the pilot while he was flying the plane.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Some people took over some planes and flew them into buildings and killed a bunch of people. Yeah. And I don't think it was overnight, but I think it was pretty goddamn fast.
Yeah.
That aircraft got locks on their doors, ballistic doors that were lockable and unopenable. And then look at what happened to the airports, right? It used to be an just total laissez-faire attitude of, nobody's ever going to do this. Well, it happened.
Yeah.
And not that many times. Controlled entry points, enhanced security measures, both to the physical infrastructure and the security personnel on site, metal detectors, screening devices, prohibited items. Is it an invasion of privacy? You're goddamn right it's an invasion of privacy.
Just like it is at the TSA.
Yeah, but I'm saying that these things happen at the airport. Yeah. There are invasions of privacy at the airport, and there's also no more fucking airplane hijackings.
Yeah.
What are we waiting for?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, to me, that's step one. And to me, I don't know how that's even fucking debatable, honestly. The fact that there's even, a counter argument to any of that or any feet dragging whatsoever, again, I think just speaks to the volumes speaks volumes to the crip and blood mentality that our political system is, and it's more about saying the other guy's wrong than it is actually fixing the fucking problem. That's a big part of it on the big picture scale. I think to add one thing that I notice when you talk about devoid of consequences in terms of interaction with people, I see that same problem both at schools from a disciplinarian standpoint and from a parenting standpoint. Is that I think a huge component that is a catalyst that's magnified by what you're talking about starts with hamstringing both parents and teachers from jerking a knot in a motherfucker's ass for fucking up. Because that's the reality of it is that just like the consequences that they were immediate then, like now you look at what a 10-year-old at school can get away with.
Yeah.
Verbally towards his teachers, towards his classmates, it is fucking astounding the amount of shit that can come out of a kid's mouth and nothing will happen.
Well, nobody wants to draw a line between right and wrong, and I don't know where that disappeared. I mean,
well, to me, when it comes to physical consequences, I mean, to me, and why this drives such a point home for me is from the dog parallel, is that's what they understand. Now, granted, I'd say 85-90% of the training I do is positive reinforcement, and I would subscribe to the same percentage recommendations in terms of positive learning environments and shaping your child's behavior positively in a fun environment where they're being rewarded for doing the right thing. However, yin without the context of yang is not fucking yin anymore. And when there is absolutely no fucking consequence for doing the wrong thing other than withholding something positive, now you're completely fucking skewed, and now the world doesn't exist the way that it's supposed to. And to me, when you couple those two things, like it's actually not even the slightest bit surprising that shit like that is continuing to happen, and again, like, where do you go from here? I don't know how there's not more viable and serious discussions about hardening these fucking targets the same way we would planes. But then the other concept that needs to be addressed on the societal platform, and I do. I mean, are guns part of the problem? To me, not really. And again, like,
they're the mechanism used to express whatever the issue is. And I agree with you. Hardening the schools doesn't in and of itself solve the issue. It just removes one avenue for people to express that whatever pain or whatever they would describe it as. I don't know what it is. It doesn't solve the problem. It just makes the schools, school environment safe.
Yeah, it makes that expression way harder to actually fucking execute. Yeah, I mean, to me, the biggest thing is the politically correct mentality of not, being held accountable. It seems like we've turned into kind of a victim-based society where everything's somebody else's fault and I'm the victim and I have to remove your ability to do something, as opposed to me just saying, yeah, you know what, I fucked up. To me, like, if there's one thing I can pinpoint that I learned and drew from and took away from the SEAL teams in terms of a benchmark fundamental principle to live by is in Jocko's. I mean, half of it is the name. Half of the name of his book is fucking ownership.
Yep.
Is take fucking accountability when you make a mistake. We all do it. You and I have storied past of
checkered and storied
fucking
past.
things up and making mistakes. But the difference between saying, yeah, you know what, I fucked up and taking accountability versus pointing the finger at everybody except yourself is, to me, like, that's the paradigm shift that took place that is enabling a lot of these things to happen, where it's that coupled with not being able to discipline fucking people and children in a manner in which is fair and appropriate. Now, granted, just like with everything, is that the road to hell is paved in good intentions. That the intentions behind removing any semblance of corporal punishment in schools and in households, yes, it is so that abuse doesn't happen and fathers aren't coming home pissed drunk off a 6-pack of fucking PBR with an extension cord and whipping the fuck out of their kids. Like, yes, that's not any more acceptable either. But just like with everything, is there needs to be balance, and to me, it's so far imbalanced is that's why you see this now in such a prevalence. But anything you want to add to that?
I agree, man. I mean, that's really all I can add.
Yeah. Times 2, shipmate.
Yeah.
Drug use. Instead of polluting your answer, I'll just say what's your take on drug use, the war on drugs, legalization of certain ones or all of them? What is your perspective?
Whew, man, the war on drugs. How long have we been at that war?
Long fucking time.
Are we winning or losing?
I mean, to me, it's a never-ending battle of
that's what I mean.
Stupidity.
I don't know. I mean, is cocaine more dangerous if you make it legal and you tax the shit out of it and you use that money for something else? And I mean, you run the same risk as somebody using it illegally, right? Or any substance or any drug. You get bent out of shape and you do something irresponsible and you hurt somebody else. That's probably the worst case scenario. If people want to be irresponsible and the only person that they hurt is themselves, I am kind of a fan of Darwinism when it comes to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm on board 100%. I mean, to me, like, there's one devil's advocate role I'm going to play here in a minute at the tail end of this, but to me, yeah, a lot of people subscribe to the mentality of, well, heroin and meth, like those things, they ruin families and whatever. I mean, so does alcohol.
Yeah.
So does money. So does gambling. So does fucking McDonald's and Snickers bars, for that matter. If
anything in excess will have that effect.
If you give it the teeth to enact such lethality on your family, on your lifestyle, whatever, is that you can use a lot of things to fucking ruin your life. And to me, these I look at it just like I do with the gun debate problem, in that if you look at it from like a surgeon's table standpoint, there's a fucking variety of tools on there. Guns are one of them. Drugs are one of them.
Yeah.
By removing one of the tools, like the person that's going to find a way to fuck his or her life up, guess what? There's a whole bunch of other ways to do that.
Yep.
And I agree. I mean, to me, like, people may think that it's a harsh mentality. I don't give a fuck. I mean, Darwinism is what it is. I mean, whether it's not wearing your seatbelt and drinking, or fucking, sitting on the back end of a pickup truck driving through a fucking, bumpy pasture out here with a shotgun in your lap, hog hunting, and you shoot yourself in the fucking chin or what. I mean, there's a lot of dumb shit to do out there, and
my only issue with it is when it starts impacting others.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, like, even then, I mean, alcohol is a good example. In both, there are already means in which people are fucking killing each other, ruining their lives, ruining their families by using alcohol, by using cigarettes. Those are both legal and taxed. But, as an example, look at, prohibition. Like, that didn't work. The same way the war on drugs hasn't worked. I
think it was probably recognized as a failure very early on. And instead of taking ownership of that failure and perhaps looking for a better solution, I mean, how many probably trillions.
Yeah.
I mean, I know quite a few law enforcement men and women. They spend the vast majority of their time policing in the world of the drug-related realm. Yeah. And, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like their time could be so much better spent, and that money could be... I mean, there's infrastructure falling to pieces all over this country.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I don't have the answers, but from what I see from the cheap seats, right, which is the easiest place to make criticisms from, maybe we should call that one a strategic loss and reevaluate what it is that we're doing.
No, I agree. I think the other part of it is that, from a black market standpoint, I would use the same argument with guns, and I do all the time, is that, let's say just hypothetically you banned every gun, or you ban, drugs are banned. Like, name one place in the country where with...
Cocaine is banned.
Yeah. I mean, well, with 2 hours and a couple $100, you can't get your hands on fucking anything.
Yeah. I live in northwestern Montana. Meth is illegal and banned.
Yeah.
Cocaine,
federal felony.
Illegal, banned. Heroin, illegal, banned. Those are the number 1, 2, and 3 problems in our area that law enforcement is facing.
Yeah.
They are banned.
Yeah. And
it's
so,
the biggest problem.
Yeah. And by them being banned, it also creates, just like, say, the ivory trade. Most people don't typically give a fuck about ivory, or Cuban cigars. Like, people that don't even smoke fucking cigars want Cuban cigars, historically, back when, it was harder to get your hands on, because there's a stigma attached to it, but I mean, we can sit in the echo chamber all day, I guess, but here is the one thing that I wanted to play devil's advocate on, though, that made me think, which is a dangerous prospect, I know, but
don't do it too often.
Yeah. Well, it's I schedule that every Thursday also. The similarity to the war on terror, in terms of the war on drugs failure, to me, there are elements of similarities between the two, and I think it boils down more in execution than it does in principle, but I'm curious if you see a similarity in some instances with that.
I've never thought about it like that. I mean, just thinking my way through this, I can certainly see parallels. Addiction could certainly, in my mind, be parallel to indoctrination. I could see it, but I guess, and again, having never thought about this, there's a difference to me between an ideology and a methodology. There is a difference between that and a substance.
I guess from my perspective, in terms of how it's fought, of essentially trying to change ideologies is similar to trying to change addictions in terms of its scope of difficulty, and by fighting it in certain ways that we are fighting it by actually making the problem fucking worse.
I would agree. Yeah, we're not solving terrorism by the way that we're executing these wars.
Yeah.
It's actually not a problem that the Western world can solve, in my opinion. I equate it to you're standing in front of a dam and it's leaking, and you can either put your finger in the dam and buy yourself some time to try to empower or enable the grander solution, or you can sit there and you can drown. But I'll be the first to admit, like, even looking back on my career and everything that I was involved in, I don't think I made the world any safer for my kids.
Yeah.
But having said that, our job served a purpose, and hopefully it served a purpose, the purpose being to provide space and time, so that somewhere between us and having our kids come up and have to put their finger in the dam and replace us, which is not what I want, we can educate and enable enough. I mean, the problem we're fighting with terrorism is not going to be solved by a non-Muslim actor. It has to be solved from the Muslim religion in and of itself, much like the problems with extreme Catholicism.
Yeah.
They have to be solved from inside of that organization because they're not going to listen to us, and I don't blame them. Mm-hmm. I can see the parallels in the drug world as well. I definitely need to think about that one for sure.
Yeah. I mean, to me, like I said, just in preparing for it, always trying to look at things from different perspectives is that, again, I think it's more on execution similarities that it is principle levels. I think there's far more relevance and justification in fighting a war on terrorism. I mean, that's not even debatable. But the way that we're doing it, I see a lot of parallels that I think, just could be gone about a lot more in a lot more bright fashion. But
you'll encounter in both of them people saying, "Well, we're doing this. Maybe it's not making the biggest difference, but at least it's something." Yeah, and that's not a solution.
Yeah, yep. I mean, one of the things I say in dog training is that no training is better than bad training. Because it is. You'll fuck a dog up faster training them shitty than you will by just not doing it at all. But all right, so I'm curious to get your take on government structure in terms of, just basic, 3 branches of government, overhaul term limits, age, competency restrictions, et cetera.
Man, this gets rapidly to the limits of my knowledge and understanding. Unfortunately, I'll be the first to admit that, when it comes to the true understanding of the makeup, like I understand the broad strokes, the separations of power and the 3 organizations inside of the government. For me, what sucks for me personally, and I think this is probably happening to other people as well, is that with all of the bullshit we are bombarded by, I find myself paying attention less and less. Yeah. And I know that's the wrong approach to take, but I'm at a point where I don't feel represented. What's a crazy word? I don't feel represented by our government. Yeah. I don't feel like most often, I hate using terms like always and never, but quite often, I just feel like the aims and goals of politicians and those elected officials are not parallel with my own.
Yeah, I think they're self-serving primarily.
I think so too. I mean, things I would like to see. I would like term limits. Yeah. How about if we can't balance our budget, you don't get to be paid. Putting yourself in for re-election. Yeah. You come in on a 4-year cycle. These are the criteria that have to be met. If you are unable to create a balanced budget, you are no longer eligible for re-election. See ya. Yeah. Oh, and your pension, you don't get that either. Yeah. But again, I don't know the secondary and tertiary consequences of what might be caused from that. It sounds great to me. I think it's an amazing idea. Yeah. I wouldn't mind pulling the trapdoor on all of them. Yeah. I hate to say it, but I'd almost like to see our government fail, because I almost am at the point where I believe we'd be better off starting from scratch than continuing down the dog shit road we're on. Yeah. I mean, I don't want the country to fail. I'm not saying that at all. I don't want anything to happen to anybody, but I almost want to see the system consume itself so we can rebuild it in something that represents the people better. Yeah.
And I think the fact that Trump was elected, regardless of any of what you think of him or what's transpired since or even leading up to it, is that the principled reason as to why he was elected is that I think most people feel that way and thought, kind of like, well, fuck it. Like, here's a guy who's going to kick over the hornet's nest.
What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah, we've been trying the same stupid shit for decades and getting nowhere, being promised everything and under-delivered as bad as you can be under-delivered, lied to and hoodwinked and what have you. And it's like, fuck it, let's give this nut job a chance, Yeah. I think that says a lot. It says a lot to the mentality of the common man and where our country is at. I'm curious, one of the things there's 2 things. One, in terms of age restrictions, this is one of the things I've mentioned a couple times on here, but when I see people like Pelosi or McCain or some of these people that when in any other context of our society, you'd be looking at them like, I don't know if you should be driving. or
Are you trying to say they're 142 years
I mean,
old?
they're fucking dinosaurs, and I mean, you can see it when they talk. They're borderline incoherent. And if they didn't have a teleprompter, like I wish they didn't.
It highlights the system for what it is.
Yeah.
The system is actually extremely resistant to change.
Yeah.
If you're in, it almost seems like it's harder to not stay
like
in.
mafia.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
I don't feel represented by that. I mean, I'm curious. I wonder what percentage of our population is in their age range versus somebody who's 40 and under.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe our represented officials should represent more of the mean average of ages in the country.
Yeah. No, that for sure that's a good start. I mean, that'd be it'd be a revolving formula to a certain extent based on what the population is. But I agree. I mean,
maybe revolving is what we need a little bit more.
No, yeah, there needs to be more of a turnstile in the fucking Capitol building as opposed to a fucking jail cell that seems to trap everybody in. But last thing on that is, what's your take on the job that Trump's doing overall?
It comes back to I don't know what's bullshit. I don't know what's political banter. I don't know. I can't separate the wheat from the chaff 90% of the time. Some of the stuff he says, I laugh. I'm like, God damn.
Yeah.
I like that you said that. Yeah. Some of the stuff he says, I say, God damn. I can't believe you said that.
Yeah.
The country hasn't fallen off a cliff. Some things are happening that people said would never happen. The Korean War, what's happening in the Korean Peninsula is a good example of that. It's an amazing thing seeing the fucking ruthless dictator of North Korea walk to the border of South Korea, shake his hand, and then come across the border.
Yeah.
Did Trump have a hand in that? I don't know. If the previous administration had been in office when that happened, would they have given him the credit for that? I think so.
Yeah.
So if it's bad, he should get the credit. If it's good, he should get the credit. Or the responsibility on the bad side, the credit on the good. I don't know. Yeah. I don't see it as being much different than the people that came before him. I just look at it honestly as it's the status quo. Wearing a different suit is all it is.
Same whore, different dress.
It really is.
Yeah. Yep.
But like he's not a politician. Well, he is now.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, to me, plenty of business guys, same as me, in the circles we run in nowadays. I mean, how many powerhouse business guys that are in those revenue ranges that aren't fucking political.
Yeah.
Now it may manifest itself very differently than from a government standpoint, but rest the fuck assured, those people know how to put that hat on when it needs to be put on.
Look at admirals and generals. It's no different.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's a politician, just one of a different sort. But anyway, Department of Education, you got kids, I've got kids, they're similar age ranges where they're kind of right at the cusp of their educational instruction and toolage, if you will. I'm curious to get your take from a national standpoint, Department of Education, schooling issues, problems you see, fixes, etc.
One of the things that really bothers me is that I'm incapable of helping my kids with their homework.
Yeah.
On a lot of the issues. Maybe I should have paid attention to it more, but at some point they switched over to this Common Core curriculum, and my kids will bring back, like math problems.
Yeah.
And I don't suck at math, but I can't help them with their homework. And it bugs me because I want them to come to me and I want to be able to help them. Like when it comes to helping them write papers or do research or when they give speeches, like I'm all in on that, no problem. But it almost seems like they're teaching ineffective means, especially in this arithmetic realm. And then I look at some of the way that they are teaching the kids. It's almost as if they're teaching them to take tests, not solve problems.
Absolutely.
And there's a fucking difference between those two. I remember when we lived in California. It seems to be better in Montana. I remember we lived in California for like 2 weeks before they started taking the state tests. All of the homework honestly seemed to be based around getting them to practice filling in circles. Yeah. It no longer was about teaching and educating. It was practicing for a test that I assume the teachers get their ratings from.
Yeah.
And I get the desire to do that. I mean, they want to get a better rating, but I want my kid to be able to function in life. I want them to be a critical problem solver. I want them to be a non-linear problem solver. And I am not an expert in education. I try to teach them that. I don't know how you would do that on a mass level, but I feel like that is missing in the educational system for sure.
I think to expound on some of that, at least from my perspective on a broad spectrum national scale, is the fact that there is a Department of Education. I don't think there should be. To keyhole, California with Pennsylvania, with fucking Iowa, with Nebraska, to me, like, I'm a huge advocate and proponent of that money coming from the federal government, just not being a national cabinet level bureaucracy that dictates all of these types of things that we're talking about, because that is a byproduct of it, in my opinion, is that a big reason why our schools aren't teaching kids to be critical thinkers is because there's a national fucking pot that, they're vying. I mean, it's almost like Navy promotion, honestly.
Yeah, they got to hit the wickets if they want their money.
Yeah, and so it's not about learning at this point. It's about money and about resources, that continue to fund their own fucking jobs. And you can't really blame teachers for it because, I mean, it's their fucking job. It's their livelihood.
Yeah.
But I really wish it would go back to the states. I mean, to me, that is, in my opinion, kind of the crux of the United States of America is to have as few, nationally cabinet or, national driven cabinet level positions to dictate certain policies. Like, yes, Homeland Security, that makes sense. Immigration makes sense. Fucking human trafficking makes sense. Whatever. But it boggles my mind. I'm in the same boat. Like, there's a lot of times with homework, and I'm embarrassed to say it's not just math, but yeah, there's times where I'm just like, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm honestly like, I'm going on my phone and trying to figure out how to fucking solve some of these problems. And when they say this is how we were taught to do it, I'm just like, holy fucking shit. That might as well be in Greek.
They lay it out for me, and I look at, I'm like, what?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's almost like if we were having a competition to see how long it could take you and how confusing of a method you could find to figure out, the problem to an answer, like you won. And that's it. It's fucking staggering.
I was raised on the simple principles, right? There's 3 types of people in the world: those that are good at basic arithmetic and those that are not.
Fucking Christ, that's brilliant. I love it. So which category do you fall into? You're the third, right? It's again, to me, it hits home, I think, for both of us because of where we're at in our lives with with children, but that and coupling on to some of the other issues with tying the parents and administration's hands in terms of discipline. I think when you couple all those things together, and it's kind of a shit sandwich. All right, women's roles in specifically society, military, spec ops, sports, etc. There's a lot of the war on women and gender pay gaps, and I'm curious to get your take on. Most specifically, like, military, society, and specifically special operations, I guess, in the military. But
I mean, for me, let's start with the understanding that women have been serving in combat and near combat and damn near on the front lines since the inception of war. My grandma is a great example of that. The post-traumatic stress that she suffered, the things that she saw and that she had to deal with, are worse than most things that 90% of people who serve in the military have to see. I'm a believer in blind standards. They 2-3 years ago, they dictated that all military occupations, to include every special operations occupation, should be opened up to women. And if your standard is legitimate, it should be blind. It's really the only way to have any integrity in it. And if there is a woman that can meet the exact same standards as a man, not gradiated in any way or degraded in any way, I can bring it. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I mean, I live with a woman. She's more lethal than most of the men I served with. She'll kill a dude, no problem. Yeah. More than likely, it's going to be me. If I ever go missing, she's the suspect. Yeah. I have no problem with it. There's some environments I think they might be better suited for than others. There's some environments where I think they might be more lethal than men. but it has to fall back on the standard and not a desire to show a proper ratio. The standards for our job are driven from the occupation. They're driven from the demands that we see overseas, not from the demands that we want to see overseas. So as long as, like, again, I'll keep going back to that standard. If you can meet it, I have absolutely no problem.
Yeah. In terms of the one follow-on question to that is in terms of integration. Mm-hmm. Do you take, because I subscribe to the mentality of that standard that we're talking about is ever present, right? It's in the integration, it's in everything. Is that there's no accommodations made, birthing, showers. If you're on the team, you're on the fucking team.
If we're talking about special operations, the enemy is not going to care if you want a special shower, if you want a unique time to do whatever it is that you want to do. They don't care about your considerations. Yeah. So your training has to replicate that. Now, as far as integration goes, yeah, you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
When you mix men and women. Look at submarines as an example. I mean, shit.
Yeah.
They integrated submarines and rapidly started having issues.
Yeah. I mean, even on ships, I mean, shit, I don't know if you did any ARG platoons or not.
I never did. We would transit on them from time to time, but this the same, right? Like the issues you have with men and women in society outside of the military. Hey, guess what? Sometimes men like women, and sometimes women like men.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's some issues that come from that.
Yeah.
And yeah, is that going to happen? Is that going to be something that you have to deal with? Yes. But deal with it. If it's that important, then deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I look at it as one of the beauties that the military, at least in theory, should be able to adhere to is, you know, take any issue, any question that you have and separate it into A or B. Is that, does it make us a better warfighting force? Does it not? If it does, you do it. If it doesn't, you don't.
Yep.
By and large, you can pretty much drive that whole military train on that fucking fork in the road. To me, the big question is, you know, I referenced the Jeff Goldblum and fucking Jurassic Park, is, you know, we've spent so much time whether or not, you know, thinking about whether or not we could or couldn't, whether or not they could or couldn't do it.
Yeah. We
never stopped and thought about whether or not we should. And to me, like that's the concern I have, or really what the burning question is that is the detriment and issues that would inevitably come and stem from integrating women into those types of roles. Is that worth the augment of what they're going to bring to the table warfighting capability wise? Because to me, I look at Israel as a great example of. I agree in that there are instances where women, I think, are better suited, especially from a tactical and even covert standpoint of being able to get into places and do a lot of things you and I would never be able to do.
All you need to do is look at your average bar.
Yeah, yeah.
If you were to give me the tasking of going into a bar and eliciting information from as many women as possible, I'm going to come back with probably 0. If you give an attractive woman the same role of going into a bar and eliciting information from men, she's going to come back with all of them, all the information you could possibly want.
Or women.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there's no character or value judgment there. It's just I'm not physically capable of doing one, and they are better suited in that environment based on the way that men and women interact. Afghanistan is another great place where you have to have women involved because the women there will not talk to men that are not their husband. I cannot force. Well, I guess I could force them to, but I'm going to be defeating the purpose of getting them to want to talk to me in the first place.
Yeah.
Is it worth it? In my opinion, if the sole purpose is to prove that it is possible, no, it is not even remotely worth it. In the SEAL teams, would it be worth it? No.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that it would. I think my take again is take Israel as why reinvent the wheel? Like, have female special operations detachments that are stood up from scratch, that are all female, that do their own fucking thing. Like, there just shouldn't be women
Which,
SEALs.
by the way, exists in the U.S. military. It's just not talked about often.
Yeah, but, you know, to me, like, bring that to the forefront and have a bigger slice of the pie dedicated to that, you know, but... all right, so moving on, abortion, religion, freedom of religion, liberty, abortion, kind of how they all factor in to a certain extent with each other. What is your take on those from a society standpoint?
Okay, I was not expecting this question.
Yeah. You're welcome.
I don't like telling people what they should do. I believe in freedom.
Yeah.
I believe in an individual's right to choose. There's an interesting argument or a discussion, and I don't know exactly where I net out on it, when it's, when it comes to abortion, they say it's a woman's body. It is, but at some point, a fetus becomes a child in and of itself that is being carried in a woman's body. And again, I don't necessarily, because then inception. I personally get lost in how I feel in those issues, but I always will come back to, as a person, the reason that I want to make a difference and the reason that I'd be willing to give my life for this country is that so people can have the ability to choose.
Yeah.
And I feel that should be the case with religion. If you want to practice extreme religions, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but be fucking prepared for the consequences.
Yeah.
Well,
if it goes outside the realm of what affects you and your...
Correct. You can believe, when it comes to, a good example is, freedom of speech. People look at freedom of speech as I should be able to say whatever the hell I want to say. I look at freedom of speech as how much can I tolerate somebody else saying something that disgusts me, that turns my stomach. People burning the flag. I don't think I'd be able to stop myself from getting involved in that if I saw it in person, but I think they should have the right to do it.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it at all. Kneeling at the national anthem. Okay. I stand at the national anthem and I try to choke back tears every single time. I don't support kneeling, but I'm not going to tell them to stop, because I don't look at my rights as what I can force other people to do. It's about how much I can tolerate from other people. That's freedom to me. It's not about me trying to express myself. It's about allowing other people to express themselves.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think, that mentality seems to be much more prevalent in those of us who have, written a blank check up into including our lives to that cause.
I never wrote that check. Yeah, did you go down to the PSD and write that?
Well, I actually I was drunk, and I had a buddy forge it, but...
Did they notarize that?
Yeah, I didn't.
No,
they didn't.
Yeah, I know. It's
but to me that there's a I think a pretty significant element of people who have fought for it.
Yeah.
So vigorously that
when you feel the cost, if you've ever felt the cost, if you've ever looked in a casket and saw one of your best friends and seen their family members destroyed, if you've ever watched a son or a daughter looking at their dead father who is laying in a flag draped coffin, it'll have a different meaning.
Yeah.
And I understand why people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Which is a ridiculous sentence. I understand what people understand. I understand how they can forget.
Yeah.
I understand how it can feel free. But it has a cost. But the cost doesn't ever touch you. If you never feel the weight on your shoulders a little bit, it's hard to appreciate. I understand it. I don't support it at all. Yeah. But I have a level of understanding of how it occurs.
Yeah. No, I think, that's really the backbone of it is, I feel, I'd say, pretty much textbook very similarly in that, there's so many fucking things that drive me nuts.
Yeah.
That I can't fucking stand that similarly, like, I don't know how I would react in person, given certain circumstances.
I think they have the right to do it. I just don't know if I could control myself because it has a different meaning to me.
Conceptually, do I think they ought to be able to? Yeah, I do. Like, that's the whole fucking point. To me, whether it's the First Amendment, or really just liberty as a broad concept, is that it's not designed for what we already agree with, what we're already comfortable with, what we can stand and or tolerate or not mind. It's for all of the other things that don't fall into that category, So, no, it's good shit. I love hearing it. In terms of surveillance, as it relates to combating terrorism, et cetera. I know a lot of times, Patriot Act or whatever is that there's some, infringements or, what you could argue are
removals of freedom.
Yeah, well, and that, and walking a very fine line, disguised under the cloak of protection and freedom that kind of stomps all over the fucking Constitution. I'm curious if that didn't give you an indicator as to my thoughts on it. But
yeah, I mean, I forget to equate the quote to, but I might mess this up. But it's when a government fears its people, you have freedom. When people fear their government, you have tyranny.
Yeah.
And I think that's true.
Yeah.
After 9/11, there was a sense of fear and hopelessness and lack of security, I think, by most people in this country. And the government dove into that gap headlong. And I think we lost a lot more freedom than people understand.
Mm-hmm.
It's invisible, I think, to most parts. And it's interesting because you can tie this into how do you feel about people who send documents to WikiLeaks?
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Peyton Mannings of the world who...
The Brad Mannings. And Peyton Manning's a quarterback. But I mean, hey...
No, how do you feel about him? That's what I'm talking about. Do you like his spiral? Yeah, I'm an idiot, obviously. Peyton Manning, you're the best. Yeah. No, but, any of the people, because it ties in. Are they criminals or are they patriots? Are they trying to show us that the government has overstepped, or should they be put to the torch? It's an interesting conversation. I feel like we have given up a little bit too much of who we are. I feel like we have lost a lot of the freedoms. I mean, one freedom that I want is autonomy. I want to be able to think what I want and write what I want and say what I want and not have every fucking thing recorded and dissected and potentially used against me some other day.
Yeah.
And that's not the world we live in right now.
Yeah.
And those leaks display a lot of that stuff. And if it's not our own government looking into their own society, we just have one of our allies do it from across the border, right? The agreements that they enter into. Mm-hmm. So therefore, it doesn't necessarily trample on the Constitution. It tiptoes, right? But the result is the same.
Yeah.
I'll tolerate the risk for the freedom. I'd rather that than be in a prison and not be able to see the bars.
Yeah. I mean, to me, so there's two things. Is that, I think it's Ben Franklin's quote of, any man who would trade safety for freedom deserves neither.
That's a good one, too.
Yeah, which I fucking love. And
I thought that was Peyton Manning's as well, damn it.
That's John Elway said that. Fucking, Ricky Bobby once said, no, but to me, that's the first thing is that I agree. Like, to me, with great freedom comes great responsibility. It's big boy rules. I mean, it's being in a platoon for the first time and saying, yeah, you can do whatever the fuck you want, but if you don't show up with your shit wired tight and your shit ready to go, guess what? The fucking the house of pain is coming. Is that there's an element of that to where that is freedom, and whether you're talking drugs, whether you're talking abortion, whether you're talking whatever, is that to me, like, I equate freedom to pregnancy. You either are or you're not. Like you're not kind of free or half pregnant. Like, motherfucker, you're either free or you're not.
The issue is when it moves in either direction 1% at a time. The insidious creep.
It's the slippery slope, and that's I know that's a big concern Second Amendment wise. Of where does that stop? It's the bump stock here. It's the fucking background check there, whatever. And I get it. One thing that I am curious though, what ties into the next subject is immigration, and the reason why this comes on the heels of the surveillance threat is that I think, from a broad spectrum standpoint, is that you've got a lot of the issues that I see that our government justifies surveillance would be fixed by stauncher immigration policies and much more robust border security, because without the fucking gates wide open, you don't need to monitor your people nearly as much, in my opinion. And one of the references you used earlier of plugging the hole in a leak is that I view border security and immigration reform / policy that same way. Is that, like, right now, I truly do believe border security is one of, if not the most important fucking thing our country faces right now. Because of that, is that I equate it to, you walk into the bathroom and the fucking shitter's leaking, and you and I grab mops and we try to fucking mop up the leaking shitter, like, while it's still overflowing. Like, that's what we're doing right now, and that's never going to solve anything. But by fixing that, one of the enormous positive byproducts of that is a decreased sense of necessity for such robust surveillance policies, in my opinion. What do you think?
I think we are a country of immigrants. I think we were founded on that, right? And I would say I would agree. We are a country that was founded on immigrants, but the world changes. Technology changes. Things that were not an issue previously can become an issue in the modern day. I want there to be access and availability for people to come to this country because it's the best fucking country on the face of the planet. People dismiss more shit every day blindly and underappreciate or don't even recognize what we have. People would kill to have those opportunities. And guess what? That's why they're trying to come here.
Yeah.
I don't blame them for doing that. Now, I spend an inordinate amount of time thinking like a terrorist. It's a problem.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it, so I'm not going to stop anytime soon. We haven't defeated terrorism, and it's actually just a military tactic, right? It's an effective tactic where a numerically inferior force can control a numerically superior population through fear, through doing shit that nobody could ever possibly believe, by strapping bombs on kids and sending them to birthday parties and clacking them off. So we hardened our aircraft. That was one step. I look at this from a perspective of what would I want to do if I wanted to get people inside of the borders of the United States. One of them would be through the internet, right? Which is, that's a border that's a tough one to secure, especially if you have freedom of access to information and speech. San Bernardino shooters are a good example of how people can become radicalized without physical contact. But there's other ways. If I had a chemical weapon, if I had a man-portable nuke, it's so easy to walk into this country, not let alone skipping the immigration process and thinking about it from a Manchurian candidate perspective, right, of playing the long game, which I'm sure countries like China and national state actors are already doing, and I'm sure we are too.
Yeah.
The 20, 30-year long game where they work their way slowly into these organizations where they have influence and they can exert that at the appropriate time. So actual physical border security, yeah, that's an issue that we need to handle for sure. Because if I was looking at this from a perspective of wanting to do damage and get things into this country that they were not having access to here, that's how I would do it.
Yeah.
And then from an immigration policy, like I said, I understand why people want to come here, but that doesn't mean that we can have or cannot have a very robust screening policy that does the best we absolutely possibly can do to make sure that the people that we are going to accept into the country are not here to do damage to it.
Yeah.
I don't see why those two things are mutually exclusive,
Yeah, to me, what I would do, put us in charge of the country for fucking 20 minutes, which is a dangerous prospect.
That is more than enough for us to sink the ship.
Yeah, well, I challenge accepted. That's what it needs anyway, right? I would swap the Department of Education and make a Department of Immigration. Similarly, to me, that is a national level cabinet position that warrants, justification and necessity to be made. Is that to have exactly what you're talking about? Because I agree. Like, I don't think nobody should come here. It's that, motherfucker, what are you bringing to the table? You don't come because it's the family policies or the goddamn lottery. Like, that to me is absurd.
Freedom needs to be earned.
Yeah.
And the freedoms that we have, they have been earned.
Yeah.
And they should be protected. And I honestly feel quite often like we're the only ones at the table playing the short game, while other organizations and entities are playing the long game. And their long game is the degradation of our society.
Which is happening.
Which is what we should be doing everything we can to possibly and practically defend against.
Yeah, no, I agree, 100%. Climate change. Didn't see that one coming? Did you see it coming?
Didn't see it coming.
That's what she said. All right, so climate change. Keep it fairly short. Is it what's your take on it?
This is a huge hole in my personal game. I'm actually trying to nail down a guy named Jeremy Jones, who is he makes snowboards, but he also founded an organization called POW, Protect Our Winters. And self-admittedly, huge hole in my game. I don't know. Because again, I get bombarded with, it's true, it's not true. These people are idiots. These people are geniuses. And I don't have the intellectual horsepower to crank my way through the raw data.
Yeah.
I think it's real. That's my assessment. I mean, our population is exploding. Yeah. Well, I mean, we do a lot of dumb shit as a race. There's got to be consequences to that. I just don't understand at the level that I should what those consequences are. And I'm trying to close the loop on that.
Yeah. I mean, I would say I'm probably similarly ignorant to it, other than the fact that, to me, common sense would tell you, basically what you said, but then also just take automobiles as an example, is that, if you can shut your garage door, turn your car on, and be dead in a matter of minutes, like, chances are with,
I think you need a hose for that too.
I'll give you a fucking hose. Yeah. Chances are that having, hundreds of millions of vehicles,
billions,
driving around, is probably not that great for us, and that's one example, fucking water and factories and plastics and the fucking beads in your toothpaste and antibiotics going down. I mean, so yes, like there has to be a significantly detrimental impact from us as a species, enacted on the planet. To me, I'm with you, and I think more people should take a little more even-keeled approach. And then it's like, I don't fucking know how big of an impact that is, and I don't think anybody really does. I mean, to say, well, it's fucking science, like, yeah, for sure there's some negative impacts. There's no two ways about it. But just like with most things, I talk about balance, whether it's dog training, life in general, is that, take a little more fucking, on the fence approach to saying, obviously there's an impact and there's things that we can be doing better. To what extent, I don't know. I mean, the fact that most weathermen can't fucking accurately predict what fucking day it's going to rain here 3 days in advance, like, tells you that if you're telling me, I mean, shit, 30, 40 years ago, they were worried about the next ice age, so, to me, it's like, temper it a little bit with the people that are running around throwing bricks through your fucking truck window because you drive a diesel fucking pickup. It's like, stop being an asshole, but, campaign finance.
I mean, is there a dirtier system in America than the political system?
I would argue to say that even porn is not as dirty as campaigns and their finance capabilities.
And again, I mean, I have a broad understanding, and I do know that there have been exclusions now where corporations can donate as much as they want to. And, why would they do that? It doesn't take a rocket surgeon to figure out why they would.
I performed surgery on several rockets.
Yeah. I'm disgusted by the whole system. I think it should be burned to the ground. And again, I don't want it to fail, but maybe that's what we need. And if you can just inject, I mean, it seems to be that the more money that you have into it, the more likely that you're going to be able to succeed in your goals. Because you can outmarket yourself, you can outpromote yourself. Well, none of these individuals, other than Trump claiming that he has the ability to do so. I mean, they don't have the ability to do that, so they're taking in money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in a normal monetary transaction. You write a check for something. You want something in return. I mean, I think it's a filthy system.
Yeah. To me, I agree. And I think, similarly, I don't want it to fail either. To me, like the simple solution is have a cap on it, but have it be obnoxiously fucking low. Like literally like $100,000. Yeah. Even if you want to give a campaign, okay, $1 million, fine. But I mean, for fuck's sake, a $1 billion campaign, was in the upwards. I mean, the Clinton machine, it may have even been over that. Fuck, I mean, with all of their dirty bullshit overseas, fuck, who knows? Maybe it was over $1 billion. It wouldn't surprise me, but. To level that playing field so that, we talk about underrepresentation, not being represented, properly, is that, to me, by doing that, by making it something obnoxiously low to where it might as well be nothing, on a national scale, is say $100,000, is to me that is what would ultimately give the ability for you and I and the rest of the 99.8% of the population that is the common man that makes up the fabric of our fucking society. That is how we are represented at that point.
Yeah.
It is to have it be like, to me, while that may not seem like fucking campaign finance, like what big of it, like to me, it's a huge fucking deal because of that.
I mean, imagine, I don't think it'll ever happen, but imagine if they had to run just on their principles alone.
Yeah.
As opposed to the checkbook of the people supporting them.
Yeah.
It would be a different race.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, like having run a nonprofit for a fucking decade almost, like I understand that there's some elements that you have to be able to accommodate for in terms of the logistics to even be able to get your principles out on that level. But I mean, Christ, with social media and the internet and podcasts and the platforms that exist technology wise today, you don't need much to get that message out, And to me, like, if I could pinpoint one thing that could potentially fix this system, it's actually that. And for that reason is that when you cut all of that monetary influence from corporations, because it's not just at presidential campaigns, it's the fucking Delta County that I live in here, like the smallest town.
Isn't Dan Crenshaw running somewhere here in Texas?
Down in Houston, yeah.
So I put him through training. Awesome guy, SEAL officer. And one of the first things he was talking about internal to the community when he wanted to run was like, guys, I need your support. I have to raise money.
Yeah.
He can't run on just his principles alone.
Yeah.
He's got to be able to have money to combat the person he's running against because of their checkbook.
Yeah. Yeah, and so to me, like, again, like a lot of people may hear, why are you talking about campaign finance? Like, does it really make that big of a difference? To me, like, it really fucking does. Like to me, and that's why I'm ending with it in terms of talking about politics, government, and whatever, is I truly believe by doing something that simple, the profound impact that would have on legitimately leveling the playing field for the actual assholes that are going there to fix the fucking problems. Like that's what fixes that, without hitting the reset button to a degree in which this country just completely fucking implodes. Like to me, that's the most common sense step that we as a society could take. And I know, and and most people know that because of the hooks that are in Washington, D.C. with the people that are in charge, like that will never fucking happen because of that, because they know better and they're going to protect that position like a mama bear and her fucking cubs coming out of hibernation. But anyway, I mean, that's my take on it. The last question I'm going to ask you before we wrap it up is, where do we go from here, Andy?
Dinner?
Well, for fuck's sake, I thought we were going to break in the Tempur-Pedic. You're going to show me your expertise on the Tempur-Pedic campaign.
It supports your lower back and your aching muscles. Where do we go from here? Oh, man.
That's a cool story, bro. Hey, so I just want to...
Yeah. I think we might need to go backwards a little bit. I think, I don't think this country was founded on perfect principles and ideologies.
As much as we like to over-romanticize
we do like to over-romanticize it, and there's a lot of bullshit that's tied inside of there. But I think that their baseline desires and values were true. And I say that because of the Constitution they created and the Bill of Rights that came from that as well, and the creation of this fucking amazing country. And I just find us drifting farther and farther and farther away from those values. And I don't think that there's anything good down that road.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, that might mean something to some people and nothing to others, and I'm fine with that. I think we maybe need to go backwards a little bit.
I agree completely in that, to me, there should be a constitutionalist party, and I really do think, some people may assume or cross wires with that being the Libertarian Party. I don't. To me, like, the brilliance in that document should drive every decision. It really should. It's like, what do you think about this? Well, what's the fucking Constitution say?
Yeah.
To me,
it's amazing how much foresight they actually had.
Yeah, and to me, like the fact that after all this time, the relevance that it still holds in our society, even with the technology advances and cultural changes that we've gone through as a country, it still is very very fucking prevalent in our society in terms of the impact that it should play, or can play if it's adapted to correctly. But I would love to see that. I wish that between campaign finance and just using that as our nation's Bible, as it were, to truly separate church and state, but just make the Constitution our Bible and use that as the compass. Because to me, it's the ridiculousness of it is that it's fucking easy. Like you don't really
in concept.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really have to think about it. It's like, what's the fucking Constitution say? But at any rate, I got to tell you, man, we've been at it for over 3 hours now.
Have we really?
We have. Yep. It's like good sex, Andy.
I haven't experienced that over 3 hours. Just being honest.
Yeah, well, you're married, right? So
yeah, it's true.
But yeah, we've been going at it a while. We've covered a host of topics.
You flipped the page a few times. We've gone through some stuff.
We have, and there's a couple things that we covered inadvertently, or through kind of a back channel to where I kind of skipped over it. But it's been fucking awesome having you here. I knew it would be. The depth of conversation that we have is pretty fucking cool, I think, and I enjoy the hell out of talking through these things with you, and look forward to having you back. Maybe I can come up there and
you have to, man,
do the show on your stage. But again, I can't thank you enough for coming down here, for sharing your insight, for making the trip. Looking forward to having a few drinks and shooting the shit, getting some good food and hanging out. Again, it's been fucking great having you here, and
my pleasure,
I appreciate you coming. So. With that, ladies and gentlemen, where can we find you online and follow what you have going on and all the things that are Andy?
Well, I'm contractually obligated to have social media from the skydiving world.
Lucky you.
So I am present on social media. I'm certainly not a powerhouse. I have the Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and they're all versions of my name. I think my Instagram is Andy Stumpf 212. My Twitter is Andy Stumpf 77 because some asshole has Andy Stumpf for both of those. Facebook is just my name, and then that's about it. I mean, if you want to see what I do, I have a website, andystumpf.com, which again was somebody else's suggestion.
Yeah,
and I host a podcast as well called Cleared Hot. I'm a little bit ahead of you on the episodes number, but you'll surpass me soon enough.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, for sure it's not a race, I'll tell you. But
you're racing me. Yeah, don't lie to me.
Now it's a goddamn competition. I'm gonna race to dinner. Rubbin's racing. Well, good. In terms of any of the fundraiser stuff, where can people go to continue to contribute to that for the Navy SEAL Foundation?
There's a couple ways. One of them, and when it comes to fundraising in general, with our DNA, right, we lean towards the SEAL Foundation. And I've had people ask me enough times now about organizations that are truer or closer to their families. If you want to support what you and I are talking about in our community, the Navy SEAL Foundation is a great way to do so. And just go to their website, NavySEALFoundation.org. If you were to give me a penny, the penny is going to go to them anyway. So you can find anything you find associated with me. We'll have a link to it at some point. Or just go to their website if you want. And for everybody else, who wants to make a difference, when I was serving, I never really had a good answer for people who would say, thank you most often, but what can I do to help? Because I didn't understand how selfish I was being, like we talked about earlier. And helping the families does help. So find a charity that supports whatever is closest to your DNA, for Army or Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, whatever it may be. And donate your money if you have extra money. And if you don't, donate your time. There's always something that you can give. But there's a lot of great charities out there. Find one in the avenue that you want to support, and then just do that.
And if you're a parent, don't raise little dipshits.
Indeed.
We're going to end on that note. For all the listeners, again, I can't thank you guys enough. If it were not for your support, this show would not exist. If it were not for spectacular guests such as Andy here, it transversely would also not exist. So I'm fortunate enough to just sit here and flap my gums a little bit. I appreciate everybody listening, tuning in, and until next time, this is Mic Drop.